Yes, there are two.
Two additions?
Correct. It might be 2.5.
What? You can't do that.
Okay,
There's a resolution authorizing the highway superintendent to sign a work permit agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation. There's actually two resolutions there. I'm not sure if we need to run through both of them, but there are two resolutions for that. One is possibly allowing the superintendent to sign, and then the other one is to do business with New York State. The next one is to apply for the next addition, proposed addition is to apply for CDBG funds for town hall accessibility.
oh, accessibility, okay.
Correct. I'm sure everyone is aware.
This meeting is being recorded. Oops, sorry.
I'm sure you are all aware that a woman fell in the parking lot at the curb, at the uneven part of the curb. She was being dropped off and put her walking apparatus down on an uneven surface. So I think that that's could be and also the top of the ramp at the front door is not a level place for a wheelchair. So there's a couple issues there that might want to be addressed.
Okay. So is there, I didn't see either one of those. Okay. Anything,
I believe there's I printed up another resolution, I'm sorry, another agenda for tonight. It might be in front of you.
yeah, it is,
Okay, with those two additions on it.
right,
Okay.
but. No, I did already.
And did he say he's coming?
He said, oops.
Okay, so he's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, he was. Okay, privilege, anybody, have anything for privilege of the floor? Privilege of the floor.
John might have something.
And I do too, but I'm not be able to put my hand up, I guess. So,
Okay.
As long as the clerk can hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, come just a little bit. Oh, no, here, let me.
Right over here.
Speaker's right there.
Oh, okay.
Stand in an empty
Looking at the
spot.
screen there, thinking I'm talking
Yeah.
to the
Oh,
screen.
no, he's speaking to the box.
Okay, all right, thanks. My name is
Good.
John Moore. How's that? How's
Excellent.
that? Okay, my name's John Moore. I go by Jack. I lived in Danby about 6 years now. And lived in the area about 16 years now. I spoke to Mariah this morning about the derelict house issue in Danby. And I've written about it before to various town board members who have not responded to me actually, but that was like over a year ago. But my concern, I guess, is, and you know, she explained what's going on with Mr. Courtwright and what they're looking at with like the house next door, of course, up on Miller Road by the corner, there's another one. Certainly by Michigan Road at the corner there, that house is about halfway in now. To me, it's a real detriment to our community because we have a nice community here. It's beautiful. And we have people that certainly take care of their homes, even those that have low income take care of their homes. But in this case, it's a different story. When I have friends come and visit town, they often come through and go, you know, darn, your town's kind of dumpy looking. And it's not so much that there aren't nice houses, but they tend to see the ones that aren't nice, but they kind of stick out.
Yeah.
So I was just concerned and curious what's being done. I know she talked about the zombie properties. I understand the state has a zombie property registry and they can maybe help. I don't know how they help or if they have, but just wanted to bring my attention to the issue as a resident and be glad to help out in any way that I can help out. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for adding your voice
Thank you.
to that issue.
Yes.
Actually, that was a little bit of the floor too. I just want to add something to that. I talked to someone who is a firefighter who said sort of in a similar way that they've had issues with, they would prefer for any houses that they know are abandoned to be clearly marked, so that if there was ever a house fire, they would know that they don't have to go into that house if they know that there isn't anybody in there. And it was Simon, who I know that he's around and knows lots of people, but he said he couldn't seem to get traction on that, but he felt like it was a town issue. So since it came up, it reminded me. I feel like that would be a pretty clear and maybe easy low lift way to, make the town a little bit safer for the fire trucks.
Alrighty. I think
Rhonda, Rhonda,
Rhonda
can you,
spoke.
Okay, well, I'll just add that Lansing deals with the problem by putting a big red X on the house, which makes the house even more visible. It's unfortunate, but these things are happening, and Danby could do a lot for that by having some meetings with local attorneys to help people understand that they do need to have a will, because if they die without a will, then their possessions, if they don't have any, well, their possessions one way or the other go into probate, even if they have relatives. So I think there are some misconceptions, oh, well, if I die, my daughter will get them. And that's not really the case. So that I would just add to that. But I have in front of me an email to Mariah from Lori Mithen Damasi of NewYorkTowns.org. This is dated back almost a year, May 30th, 2024. And Mariah was asking a question about whether or not town volunteers and employees needed to have emails. And the answer was that there's no state requirement. But I want to go further than that. I've been looking at the town website, and I've noticed that there are some cases where particularly the volunteers, like the CAC or some of the other organizations, their names are not listed on the CAC's webpage, and I would like to see anybody who is either an employee or a volunteer who has a town address, have that address posted on the town's website. That way, that if somebody attends a meeting or something and wants to communicate with a person, well, I liked your idea about such and such, they can go onto the website and get the person's email address and email them. But at this point in time, we have no way of really communicating without asking Mariah or something like that with these people. And that's a change actually from the way it used to be. It used to be that everybody's email address was on the website. So I'm requesting that those town email addresses be put back on the website on the appropriate page. Thank you.
very good. I can do that.
Ted was next. I guess Ted, I thought I said Jim's hand up too, but
I
okay.
think Ted was first.
Ted?
Sure, hi. I'd like to thank Rhonda for mentioning that last thing. It reminded me of an ancient request I had. This may predate you, Mariah, so it doesn't necessarily involve you. I don't know. I did send to the town clerk some time back a request for a list of all of the appointed members of boards and whatnot, and their dates of their current dates of service, when appointed and when their term would expire, and never got it back. And so, Mariah, I'll ask again. Yeah, and of course, if if that information was on the website, I wouldn't have to ask. What I did want to speak about, though, I noticed that you have a planned expenditure, if you will, that is on the business for today. Consider adding identity threat and detection and response. I think that what it is, generally what it is pretty specific, pretty easy to guess from that name. But I really wonder, it's not a lot of money, so it's not a big deal. At least that's what the quote says. But I wonder how many of you know what Huntress is? How many of you know what, I mean, I read the materials. What is EDR, which I'll explain to you as endpoint detection and response, but what is that? And from the material that I see presented with the agenda, I think you've got to be an industry insider to make a judgment. You'll just be spending money without knowing what it really is. I think that's a possibility. I'm not saying it is. So I think you should educate yourselves about that before making any decision, even if it's only $50. And that circles me back to Rhonda's request, because as part of the quote there's a list of the people who have emails through the town. And it may not be possible to contact all of these people that Rhonda was asking for through the town because they apparently don't have email addresses. I'm just guessing here. And I believe that was the result of a discussion with the town board several months ago. Thanks. That's all.
Jim, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yes, Jim Holohan, appointed town energy advisor. And just like to make an announcement that on the town website, there is a RFP, request for proposals for heat pumps for the town hall. It's up there, and I'm happy to answer any questions about it when someone takes a look at it. So if anybody knows, anybody's interested in maybe taking a look and applying, nobody in the business, please let them know. The proposals are due June 5th. And if anyone can by the town hall tomorrow, I will be there to answer questions to any contractors. But it's all pretty much laid out in there, and that's it. Thanks.
Terrific.
Yeah. Has anybody responded yet?
Yes.
There have been some. Okay.
My apologies. I was
Yeah.
off by an hour.
I think we're done with, I don't see anybody else with privilege of the floor. So take it, Joel.
Thank you. Did the addition to the
Yeah, there were the two.
business?
Yep,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's no correspondence, is there?
There is none.
Any announcements?
Yes. I'm wearing an announcement.
Yes, look at that.
Oh.
Path Across America next Monday, that's out in front at 3:00. And then it is the Sydney camp who does the what's the word I want? Not performance, the show, the
Service.
Yes.
Thank you, the service. Anyway, they do it, and then they also on the real Memorial Day, the 30th, they go to the Ithaca Cemetery and do a service there at the War Memorial there. So that was one of the things. Oh, yes, and I have an exciting announcement, and that is that read this little quickie thing. Joran Clougherty, employment with us is official as he signed his offer letter on Thursday. Joran will be starting training on Thursday, this Thursday, the 22nd, to be our youth educator for the youth program. He will be working on training and on onboarding for 16 hours a week. He will not work at all in July or the first half of August. Jordan will become full-time on the 4th week of August and hope to have fall programs running by the end of September. And we are thrilled. So that's the latest on that.
Did I miss something? What happened to Heidi?
She retired.
That's
resigned
been
months ago.
sometime that she left. That was announced in the newsletter and we've been, that was some
Repeating.
months ago.
Months ago.
June,
It's
January?
Months ago,
No.
January or even December. It was
Yeah,
just
December or
January.
January was when she first said she was not going to be able to, not continuing.
And it takes a good while to find somebody to replace
What?
somebody
Yeah.
when they
And
leave.
train.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what you said, but
So it takes a good long time to replace.
Oh,
somebody.
it takes,
Leave.
yes. Actually, Ted knows what the interview session is like too, because he's done it before, but it takes a long time. Yeah,
Did you have many applicants?
yes. Yeah. So, and we're pretty excited about this.
Yeah, great.
He has experience in all around with it too, so. Anyway, I think that's my rest of me.
Let's see, Dan here?
No,
I could say one more thing about taps.
Yes, yes.
There will be singing.
Yeah.
Some,
Well,
Danny
we will
called me, Danny asked me, he said, somebody complained, asked last year.
There was no singing.
Said, somebody came up to Danny and said, the service was lovely, but wouldn't it be nice if there was singing? I wonder who that was. It was Joel, and Joel has volunteered to do
Oh,
a bit
Happy
of
to lead.
that.
okay.
We also told Danny that we'd drill a couple of holes in the concrete for
Oh, right.
wise and.
But
And Zach is willing to do it, but
I didn't get back, I mean, he didn't answer the phone. I'll have to try again tomorrow.
we're gonna try to make it happen.
Yeah.
Cool.
So Dan is here.
Yeah.
Dan,
Yes, hi, everybody. A few things to report from the county. We had our annual budget retreat last month. And normally the way we start out the budget season is by setting a goal of a percentage increase or, decrease, I guess, in the budget that we would like to see. But we didn't do that this year because at that time, the New York State budget had not yet been passed. And as we all know, the federal budget is a big question mark. So the county is going to reconvene in July with more information and set our goal at that time. And then our budget starts in earnest in September, as yours does. Sales tax, we got our first quarter sales tax report, and it is up 9% from the previous year.
Wow.
Significant amount. It's about $1 million. I've heard theories. No one knows for sure. It might be sort of a stocking up in advance of the tariffs phenomenon, but we're not sure. And we don't know, we don't expect it to continue, but it would be nice if it did.
you don't have a breakdown, do you, where the money came from, like which, whether it's sales of cars or gasoline or, retail sales or what, right?
There is that information is available. I don't have it, but our finance director said that she was not able to see any discernible pattern.
Well, not everybody went out and bought cars, because.
Right. Maybe some. There are other years when we've had a boost in sales tax when the price of gasoline goes up, because gasoline is a significant percentage of our budget or our sales tax. But the price of gasoline has, stayed pretty low right now, or flat at least. We've had quite a bit of turnover in our department heads in in the last few months. We have about 28 departments, and we either currently have vacancies or about to have vacancies in finance, Department of Whole Health, Department of Social Services, and the Highway Department. Those are some of our biggest departments. But the good news is we're getting a lot of applicants and we're moving along quickly. And so some of those won't have they'll have an overlap in leadership, which is always desirable. And we expect to fill all of them by this summer, July or August at the latest. So as of this moment, even though there's a large number, the process for filling them is looking good. And I will mention that we've noticed that there are several fired federal employees who have been applying for our jobs here. So And that's my report.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Dan, thank you for the 33rd
Hours.
plant exchange. 33rd.
Wow.
Yes. Thank you.
It was busy.
It was good, good crowd.
Yeah.
And the weather helped.
Yes, and more than half the town board was there. So I think that's a quorum. I think you were in violation of the open meetings law, but please strike that from the minutes.
We were talking about fruit.
I was there too.
Anything from highway, Laura?
Can't hear you.
No,
Up there.
Not at this time, really.
We do have the,
We're just going through road maintenance still. Maybe at the next meeting, we might have some permission to spend funds. As he's coming, thinking of what the next steps are. To decide on what roads are gonna be paved or what's gonna happen for this year. So other than just routine things. That's
Well, I mean-
really about it.
we do have the resolution to authorize Keith to sign the work permit with the DOT.
Yes, yes, and that is something that we do every year.
Mhm.
So you'll see that there's like two parts to the resolution. One is kind of an attachment to the other.
Yeah.
And that is just that portion that and it's called an undertaking. And it's his agreement that goes along with this resolution. When you guys see it, the real resolution is to just give him permission to sign it for the year. And what that entails too is any work that the highway would do within the right of way of the state. Let's even say, even if they're parking their cars on the state or their trucks on the state highway while they're working on a corner or an intersection of one of our roads, that is what sets up the agreement. That they have an active working permit on their road for the entire year. So that's what that's really about.
And it's basically all about absolving them from any liability for what we do while we're on their road.
Yes, and setting about the agreement that if we were to create any damage because of our trucks or because of anything on the state highway, that we have the agreement that the town of Danby will fix it and put it back to what it was. And the
Okay.
undertaking is because they don't, I'm sure that they do not want to have all of these documents in their office of being additionally insured from the insurance companies, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why there's two parts to this.
Essentially equivalent of our blanket undertaking.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks too for putting the account analysis together.
You're welcome.
Next up, anybody have any questions about the account analysis?
Didn't see it.
Oh. It's in the folder.
About the what?
Not,
The
no,
account
the last time I
analysis.
looked.
Yeah. The account analysis
Oh, the
Oh.
account analysis.
Yes. for general highway and water.
Oh, I saw, okay.
Are
No, I
in-
didn't have any
in-
question. Yeah, I saw that.
At this time of the year, I mean, it's usually not
Yeah.
the instructive, because it's, it shows you're partway through your budget. Although it does indicate that the water fund is over in one line, which is because of its one repair
Right.
per year.
So I've sent that information to the water department. Is that okay if I interject just for a second, or speak just on that for a second, Joel? I've contacted them and their committee. And so that at their next meeting, they can take a look at that and advise where they want to take that dollar amount out of. I would suggest that they take that out of the fund balance, as I sent out information to all of you since it's kind of early in the year. And they were, when they did their budget, very conscientious to try to get as exact as they could and very tight in these line items.
Mhm.
So that is a suggestion, and when they take it into their committee to advise back on where they wanted to take that from, and that'll happen for the next meeting, hopefully.
Okay, brings us to the minutes of the previous meeting. Which
I
was
move
kinda
that we-
long, kinda-
Yeah, I know. Well, it
It's
was,
because of-
nice to see
right,
that,
yeah.
The
that,
whole text of the law.
the text was in there.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the May 5th meeting minutes as written.
I'll second that.
I-
I seconded.
Okay.
Any comments or deletions or additions? Okay, Mariah,
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gagnon.
Yes,
Thank you.
so warrants. Draft 10.
I'll move the general fund, abstract 10 vouchers 197 through 222 for $21,319.06.
Second.
Any questions? You seconded.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
Oh, I couldn't, I thought you said any second. No, there was just one with a tax on it that I saw that I assume will get cleared up.
Was it the general, the change in, the
Account number.
account number?
I don't know.
Is what?
There was one, well, maybe you could point to it, Laura, there was one item where you wanted to change the account number from what was on. there.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
203, voucher
in general?
203.
Thank you for remembering that, Joel, and I sent out that
Yeah, you were gonna, yeah,
email. Yes, that is for the fourth quarter youth commission, the fourth quarter of last year's youth commission payment. It was on the abstract with an expense account. And I'd just like to make a note for the minutes that we should need to change that expense account to say, read A600. That is an accounts payable line item. And that is what is booked as an accounts payable at the end of the 2024 books. So if we could just change that, and Julia will change it in the backup that is posted online.
And that raised the question in my mind, because there's also the bill for the first quarter for the youth programming position, and there wasn't anybody there. And we paid in anyway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it is allocated, we can't take it back. We would like it
We
to
haven't
be
given
able
it
to.
to them yet, but, you know, we're obligated to give it to them regardless.
Well, because there are other things that they can do with some of that. If, for instance, in the past, they've done a trip and different things to try and get the youth, keep the youth and the families involved.
Engaged.
Yeah. And the thing you signed today was for the rural youth.
That's for the youth employment service. You know,
Yeah.
basically summer jobs for kids through the Ithaca Youth Bureau.
But that's, are you talking, which are you're asking about the youth?
I'm asking about the programming position, which the
Right.
bill for which is in this warrant. For the first quarter.
for the first quarter, yeah,
Yeah.
Well, it's for the fourth quarter and for the first quarter.
and fourth quarter 2024.
Right, which is what Laura was just talking about.
Right.
But also the first quarter, and we didn't have anybody in position, so I just wondered whether we pay them regardless.
Yes, the answer is yes. And if you want to know more about it, then we can discuss it with Kate. And we have at youth commission meetings, it's been discussed over and over, trying to figure out how we may be able to use more of that money ourselves. It's obligated money. So that's why we even had to do all the requests we did to get the 2 extra scholarships. Because we couldn't just do it. You can't just do it. It's possible to have a one-time exchange of money, but it's preferred that we don't mess with the program, and I can't defend it more than that, but it would be, if you would like to have a conversation with Kate, that's a good place to start.
I just don't remember what happened the last time, you know, because it seemed like you didn't spend it. And if you didn't have that expense, the contract calls for basically paying them so that they could pay the person who does the programming. If there isn't anybody
As I
in that
said,
position.
I would like it if you would, I can't explain this well enough, and I would prefer that if you want to have that discussion, anybody can discuss it with the people who do the budgeting at the county level and at the cooperative extension.
Yeah.
It is very complicated because it involves more than just the youth employment. There's a lot of things that are involved in it.
Mhm.
Insurance is one of them.
Yeah, insurance is one of them. Training is another one. And the training, for instance,
Mhm.
for Joran is going to start in 2 days.
Mhm.
So had we asked for that money back, then that wouldn't be there. I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it, and I'd rather that if you want that discussion, to get it from the horse's mouth.
Okay, it's not that, it was.
Yeah.
Thanks. Anything else on that? Okay, Mariah.
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gannon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome. I move the highway abstract 10 vouchers 82 through 95 for $14,864.13.
Second.
discussion about that. Okay, all right.
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gannon.
Yes,
Thank you.
I move the West Danby Water District abstract 10 vouchers 57 through 60 for $474.94.
Second.
question, comment? Okay,
Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Woodworth,
Yes.
Gannon.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
On to business. We had our technology update. Conference. A week or so.
It was on Friday, the 9th.
And the TCNS recommended, well, they've been having, we haven't, but it's increasingly common, particular type of attack on email. That identity threat detection and response is the way to beef up defenses against. And they recommended that we add this to what we already have as an additional level of protection for our emails. And it's only $5 a month, but per email.
yeah,
Yeah, so it adds up, because we have it's $130 a month for the reduced number, which works out to what, $1,300 a year, or something like
And who was it who recommended it?
that. Well, let's see, TCNS.
TCNS,
The company that does our.
RIT people.
Which is Triple
the company
Cities,
that we pay. how
Triple
much to?
Cities Network Solutions is our IT support. And.
They can't do that. They would also have to pay for that. It's not a service that they, I mean, those kind of protections are not in-house protection.
Right, they don't offer the service, they're just recommending it.
Right.
So before we just said, sure, I thought it might be good to talk about whether we want that increased level of protection.
Yeah, I think Ted mentioned this in the
Comments, yeah.
in the comments earlier, and yeah, as an information security professional in my day job, I agree with Ted. I mean, this decision wouldn't come to me at my day job, even though I'm the identity and access management specialist, because we would have a team of 3 or 4 different information security professionals making decisions like this. So, I think it is interesting that, we have someone who works in this field on our small team. But yeah, when I looked at the documents that were, I didn't see this until today. So when I looked at it today, I just looked at the documents that were in the SharePoint.
Which doesn't tell you a whole lot.
And I have no idea what they do, or if it would be worth $5 per person. So I would want to look into it further
Yeah.
myself too.
Well, we
But
do
yeah,
have the
I couldn't
expertise
tell.
with which to do it, you know, essentially our team of experts is TCNS.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we don't have anybody else with that kind of relevant depth.
Not internal, it's external.
We haven't, we've hired them to be our team of
Yeah,
experts.
And
Because we,
they don't.
and their, the salary, quote unquote, that they pay, we couldn't even pay somebody to do.
Right, and they don't stand to make any money directly
No.
off of this service, I don't imagine, right?
No. It's all
I mean-
about trying to make sure that we don't pay out in attacks.
I'm sure they would lose us as a customer if we had a major hacking event or something like that.
We have
so-
a cyber insurance company as well.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, if we are engaged with a team to make sure that we're secure and then they didn't make good recommendations and then we weren't secure, we would probably find a different team. So
Yeah,
I think their motivation for recommending it might be pure and make sense, but I didn't look into Huntress's own website or anything. I just
I've
looked
heard
at
it. We've talked about Huntress. This isn't the first time they've mentioned Huntress, but it's the first time they've come to us and said we should do it. But Huntress they mentioned it several months ago when we were talking about the cyber insurance and what
Okay.
kinds of things. It was not a recommendation that it was talked about as this is another form of protection that's available that I think maybe, I'm trying to remember, it might have been Wilson Henry. I mean, yeah, they mentioned it as well. But anyway, they're available to talk to.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I just noticed it today, so all I looked at was what was in the SharePoint.
I don't see this as having, you know, strong time value where we need to make a decision today. 'Cause we-
How many emails do we have?
How many email addresses?
Yeah.
Right, just figured that out.
I think it was 30 something.
Well, it's been, some of them have gone or off. so-
26,
How many? 36?
26.
26.
26.
So it would be 200, oh wait, so 130 times 12 is 1560. So, you know, think, I don't know, $1,600 a year.
So we could
Hasn't
talk
hurt to
more
ask.
about it
Right,
Next
at the
meeting.
next meeting.
right.
Yeah. Perfect. So why don't we make a note of it, that we have our expert on the team who's going to check it
So-
out.
Yeah, I'll do
So
that
it
as
was
an action item.
$5 an email address
Yeah,
a month.
exactly.
Cause yeah, the document in the
5
SharePoint
times
makes it sound like they've got,
26
you know,
$5 a
somebody
year.
who's gonna be like watching
No,
our account,
a month,
our accounts
5,
all the time to make sure that they're safe, and then within minutes,
5
times.
if something happens, they'll
Sorry,
know. and-
Catherine and Leslie.
Yeah.
You're
Sorry,
vo-
sorry.
you're
Sorry.
very much-
Conversation
sorry.
going on, yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was just saying that the document, the Huntress document in the SharePoint kind of makes it sound like there would be like a human being who's assigned to our case and would be watching all of our accounts all the time, and within 3 minutes they would respond because they've caught the perpetrator, and none of that sounds plausible to me. So I'd want to talk to them about like what product they actually offer.
Okay, so Tyler, am I understanding that you're going to look into this?
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's the bottom line.
Can I ask a quick question?
And it'll come back next time.
Yeah.
Laura's got her
Can I
hand
ask
up.
A quick question. Would you like me to get some documentation from our insurance company, Tyler, that explains to you more, all of the details of what we're already insured for?
If that's easy, here, yeah, if that's not difficult, you can send that
It's
to me.
not difficult. I'll get some information from them so that you can compare these two to see if we're gonna be getting, well, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah,
Do you think there's a danger that we're like overlapping with multiple things covering the same thing?
That's possible. That's why I was thinking, let me get a hold of that and get that information to you. And then
Okay.
you'll have something that you can look at. I'm sorry.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'll get that to you.
Thanks.
not something I thought of at all.
I'm gonna have to say that I don't believe that we're overlapping with this. Yeah, because it's
I don't either,
different. right? The insurance is very different
Probably
for,
not, but it's worth checking.
it doesn't hurt to ask, but the
Right.
insurance for cybersecurity is not covered by hardly anybody. And in order to get cybersecurity insurance, that's where we ran into the problem. Our insurance, there is we went through this in the beginning of getting it to try and find out the issues of what our own insurance can do, and it's not this. But it wouldn't hurt for you to get from Laura all the stuff that our insurance does cover
Yeah,
for the town.
yeah, I was gonna say
For
in
all of them.
general, it's not terrible. to have.
Right.
I was just thinking that, it would be nice to have Tyler at the technology review if it works.
We do one next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is that the next time, gonna be not till next year?
I don't know.
Several months between, like happens 3 or 4 times a year.
I don't know when the next schedule is.
What type of a situation is this new insurance covering?
I'm sorry, you're very faint there, or,
What type of security is this new coverage covering? Like, for instance, for example,
just emails.
Unauthorized access to the email accounts, I think is basically. What they're saying is that they would detect anomalous access. So I think they would be checking things like, is someone trying to log into one of our email addresses from Uzbekistan or over a VPN, or
Gotcha.
did they do like 17 incorrect attempts within 3 seconds?
Gotcha, okay.
I'm guessing. I mean, that's not what they said they were doing. I'm just imagining what you would be looking for. So that's why I want to talk to them and be like, what actually are they going to do?
Well, and it'd also be good to know, I mean, they told us, Tal told us, that it was prompted by an increased frequency of this kind of attack on their other accounts.
Oh, yeah, definitely huge increases in phishing, both spear phishing, which is what they call, targeted phishing attacks, where they already know everybody and they're trying to target specific people, and then phishing, just regular phishing, where, you might send out an automated email to 30,000 email addresses and only 100 of them are real addresses, But yeah, that kind of stuff, AI is involved in being able to get around filters that, new AI technology is on both sides of the battle. It's just,
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's not gonna get better.
yeah.
They're watching for us. Our insurance covers things if something actually happens and we have a
Right.
loss for it, because we've already experienced that. But it
Right.
sounds like this insurance is something where they're watching and being
Yeah.
proactive to it.
Yeah, this sounds more of a service than an insurance.
Right, it's not really
Yeah,
insurance. it's
Yeah,
really-
more of a service than just an insurance. But I'll get that to you anyway, so you can take a look.
Yeah, I think it's context, it's
Yeah.
kind of,
I mean, you want to not need insurance, and that's what this
Yeah.
is about.
yeah, that's their fallback, I guess.
Yeah. It's a pain in the neck if it happens. Thanks to Pat and Catherine, the clerk has been audited. And we have their report. And we now know it's a good idea to acknowledge its receipt. So I move that we acknowledge the receipt of the clerk's audit from Catherine and Pat.
Yep, second.
It's in the meeting folder.
Yeah, I know, but
There's
yesterday,
also-
the agenda said it was the receipt of court audit, so,
Yeah, I know, I missed it. That was more.
yeah, well, that was from previous.
Yeah, that's right. That
yeah.
was my dumb,
Okay.
Mariah noticed it, I fixed it this morning.
Okay,
But that was also conveyed to the board members
Right.
over a week ago.
Yeah. yeah, we already did that one.
Right.
No, I mean, no, the clerk's audit was also transmitted to us about a week ago from.
Yeah,
From Pat.
yeah,
I think she's saying that we already
did the,
We
did
did
the vote.
Court's
on
already
it.
been
the
done.
court.
Right.
He knows that. He's saying that we sent the now
Right,
about
I
the
know.
clerk a week ago,
Yeah.
which we did.
Sorry, I'm not.
I did.
Okay. Go ahead. Moving on.
Well, no, we haven't voted yet.
I move that we
We
acknowledge.
already have
It's moved and seconded.
Oh, it's been moved and seconded?
Yeah, to acknowledge receipt of the audit from the audit committee.
Yes, and then we had discussion and
Right, and if we're ready, we can vote.
discussed.
Did anybody have any questions on the audit? Okay,
A couple of those minor.
Sorry, I've got to do something about this dinging. Thought I did.
She's dinging.
Yes, right. I noticed a remark that frequency of deposits was, must have been
Yeah.
supposed to be, but.
That was for the, not the clerk, but the, a tax collector. There are different amounts, different timings for both of those.
Yeah,
And Mariah was founding the same one for both. And that was, will be changed.
I'm sure. And I'm sure the auditors, the state auditors will notice it too.
The state auditors called us about it and they had no concerns about it.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't expect they would, but they.
No, they didn't. Now, the other thing is this was the audit for clerk's audits for the clerk for 2024 and for the tax collecting for 2024. 2025 tax collection is complete. Rather than waiting until next January to do that audit, we already made arrangements with Mariah that we'll do that soon for the 2025. When we did the 2024, she was not complete with the 2025 taxes.
Right,
But we will do the 2025 in a few weeks.
Great. Should we hold off? on
No.
that account?
No, because it's a separate report. It's not the same report.
Okay, all right. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, right.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Woodworth.
Yes.
Thank you. Gagnon, sorry.
Oh, I should make one other note that one issue was that some of the taxes that were from the clerk to the town were not always deposited quickly, so that should be done as well. So the same thing was
Yes.
an issue with the court.
And that'll show up on the supervisor's audit
Correct,
coming soon.
coming soon.
For those who wonder, that audit can happen on Thursday.
And Gagnon, I just want to get your yes or no.
I said yes, but maybe you
Thank
didn't
you.
hear.
I didn't hear it. Thank you.
We had this, I'll call it distressing news that it's proposed in the federal budget that the CDB program be discontinued altogether. Yeah. And I wondered whether we should have some sort of institutional response.
Yes,
I think so. And I also think maybe if we put this on the website, and ask for, maybe we could get some past recipients to write. So I don't know if we can or not, but
So what kind of, how would we publish a response?
I mean, a number of things we could do. We could pass a resolution urging them not to do it. Send it to our legislators and to the president, who's originated the budgetary, proposal.
Wouldn't it make more sense to try to contact people involved in the lawfare against it? Like, I don't know if Letitia James is onto this yet, but I mean, zeroing out funding for things that Congress has appropriated money for is not legal. So it's not legal for him to do this.
Yeah, but this is not zeroing out funding. This isn't proposed next year's budget. Fiscal
But I mean,
26.
Well, 25, 26.
so
So it's in the proposal that goes to Congress, and it's got the Congress to say yea or nay.
so Congress,
so we want nay.
so we're expecting that Congress is going to not fund it because that's what they'll be asked to do. That's
Well, as of now, I mean, so far, the Congress, when the president says, I'd rather not fund this, the majority in Congress has said, okay.
so is the minority.
Um,
I mean, I don't see any value in reaching out to Chuck Schumer or Kirsten Gillibrand for anything. I don't think that they'll help us with anything. I don't think you can change their minds, and I don't think they're on our side, to be perfectly honest.
Ooh, I think they are on the side with this kind of stuff. Yes, absolutely. And I do want to send a letter to them.
I guarantee that they won't be effective in fighting it.
that
That's
doesn't
not the
mean we
same.
should.
Yeah, they might not be, but
That's not the same as knowing that we support it.
I feel like if they had the opportunity that they might be able to succeed in fighting it, I think that they would.
Do it if they
I
could.
think they would throw us under the bus. I think they would throw the game. I feel like Republicans zero out funding or they decrease funding by 90%. And then when Democrats get the power back, they give us 5% of that funding back. And I think that's the game, because I think both sides
But that doesn't mean we ignore it when they do
for
it.
their funders.
That doesn't mean we ignore it when
I
they do
agree
it. I
completely.
think
We
we should
can't
say
ignore it.
something when we, and then writing it down and sending it to us how we.
If I send something to Chuck Schumer, it's not gonna be.
Maybe you shouldn't send anything.
Yeah, I have nothing to say to Chuck
Leave your
Schumer.
signature off.
You know, I don't think we should vote for Republicans. I think we should run against Democrats. That's how I feel about it.
I think that it is, I think that they have asked, I think Toma has asked us
Yeah.
to do this. And I think it's respectfully, it's a request from them that I think that I respect that request. And I think that it is.
Who is asking us to
Thelma?
reach out?
Thelma.
to Chuck Schumer?
Thelma.
No one didn't really do that. I mean, they
That-
pointed out the problem, basically.
So they
Um,
put 3 contacts on the.
We
second
encourage
page.
you to reach out.
It says, we encourage you to
Your
reach out.
Congress-
Right,
Encourage
they
them
put 3
to-
contacts on the back page and asked us to reach out to Chuck Schumer, Kirsten Sinema, and Josh Riley.
Our local representative.
Right, and we think that these people are going to change their course because we're gonna ask them to.
Well, no, actually, they're probably on the course that we want them to be
We're
on.
already,
First place.
and
I
we
mean, we
want it
could
on the
also-
record that this is our position and we want it on the record official. We
Right.
don't want to say, oh, we believe it, but you won't do anything on it. So
So we won't bother
tell you that That's what we want.
Yeah, we should tell them how we feel, I suppose.
Yes.
That's what.
What's too bad is that this program has been really
It's been a
helpful
really wonderful.
to
program.
residents,
So-
low income residents, so,
So
and we don't have to just send it to these 3.
I just want to cast my vote,
We could-
absolutely no confidence.
Okay, one at
in
a time,
these-
please, one
these
at a
3
time.
What's that?
She's asking for us
Speak
not to have
one
multiple
at a
people speaking. Right.
Oh,
It's very hard for her, the minutes, when everybody's clamoring.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know Josh personally.
I think we got I actually think we got your point.
Yeah.
And this is a board. So at this point, it is that we've been asked to look at this and you, if you prefer
I have
not
read
to
it,
be
yeah.
included in it, that's okay too. If we could decide that we wanted to have an official letter written, and then those of us who wanted to could sign it,
Yeah,
that would work,
and I
if
mean,
that would help you.
we could send it to more people.
Right.
Well, I'd love to
Yes, too.
contribute to the letter. I mean, if we're gonna be writing a letter.
I think they should send it to Donald Trump as well.
Right, I
Yeah,
agree,
if it
that
originated
might
with
as
him.
well. I mean,
Well,
all,
I'm sure he'll read it.
I'm sure he'll read it.
No.
I mean, no,
Sure,
what,
we won't read it.
what is the point of sending a letter to Donald Trump?
He needs to hear that not everybody thinks it's a great thing to be cutting all these programs,
Right.
and if all he hears is from the people who say, yeah, go, that's not good.
I think what
We won't do
Tyler
anything.
has said that he doesn't think anybody will read it. So, I mean, that's, and I agree that
No
it's
effect on
on,
Chuck Schumer.
now we're talking, now we're doing the same thing that Mariah asked us not to do. But the point is that you may be completely right. That's what most of us often think. But that does not stop the fact that we've been asked to respond. And that's what we're talking about.
The initials, who is it that's asking us to respond?
Is this the?
Toma,
What?
development consultants for this program.
Right,
Toma. Toma's the one who
Toma.
implements the program for us.
right. So, I mean, you could say, well, that they're doing that because they're gonna lose money. We can be cynical if we wish. But I still think the program is worth fighting for and
Yeah.
worth speaking up.
Absolutely.
And that's what I
The
think.
program is great.
Okay, you talk.
I'm just trying to agree. with
I
you.
know,
I'll do
I-
this.
Tyler, the only trouble is that for Mariah to do the minutes, every time we do this, it's very hard for her to do the minutes, so I will stop now.
So discussion is usually not heated, so I don't have my practice with not unanimity. We're unanimous on everything except this, it seems like.
Well, you haven't been
No.
on long enough. Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. We're not unanimous on
Yeah,
everything.
no.
We haven't dealt with controversy. I mean, we can all agree on approving the minutes and doing the warrants, but we haven't had any substantive discussions in a while, so.
Right,
We rarely come to agreement instantaneously.
right.
Who's
We-
gonna write? Who's gonna write the letter?
Well. A good question. He's volunteering.
Well, what do we want to say?
Greg, would you help us?
I can definitely help.
You know, not writing it, but if you can give us specific benefits that we can put in the letter, that would help.
Sure, and I mean, we have testimonials from
Oh, great.
half a dozen of the recipients from the 2022 grant. That we
that's
can pull
perfect.
language out of, we don't need to cite their names. We can
Right.
Say, these are testimonials from people. Like we have dollar amounts, number of homeowners, benefited. Yeah,
Okay, so I'm not asking you to write the letter. I'm just asking
Yeah, I
you
can-
to
I can
gather
start
stuff
it.
that specific details will help the letter.
I think Leslie would be a fine person to. He's got all the data. I let Greg do the whole thing. He does do it well, I must say.
If you're willing, that's okay with me too. I just not trying to push it.
it's a board
It,
decision.
it,
so
it sounds like
I-
Leslie's trying to push it though, onto Greg.
I serve at your pleasure, so if you want me to write the letter, you just say that. and-
Well, thank you for offering.
I would like to include in any letter, basically I'd like to work from the assumption that the funding will be eliminated to start. At first it's going to be eliminated, but that the purpose of the letter should be to encourage them to bring it back at full force when they regain control, because I would not expect the National Party to not see this as an opportunity to bring it back at much lower funding and say, hey, we threw you a bone, and they can think our donors will be really happy that we've cut this program in half successfully, and they'll get a pat on the back for it. So I think that our letter should focus on the reality that the program is being eliminated, and that when the Democrats regain control, like they always do with the swinging pendulum, that we expect them to bring the program back as strong as it was before or better, and not at half strength hobbling, because that would be my concern. That's what I'm afraid of, is that the Republicans cut this program and the Democrats kind of bring it back.
Well, we can hope that that doesn't happen.
Well, if they know that that's what we're anticipating,
Well,
maybe
we're
they can
not,
play
they
that.
haven't cut it, they
Stop.
haven't cut it yet.
No, they haven't.
It's proposed.
Would you like me to draft a letter?
Yes,
We'll-
yes,
We'll
yes.
talk about it in a
Yeah.
first board meeting
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
June, and we can.
Yes.
or
Thank you
Joel.
so much.
Okay, great, yeah.
Yeah.
I apologize.
So anyway, I brought it up only because I thought it was appropriate to respond.
Yeah,
I think it is.
Yes, right.
And obviously it's important for us to be able to speak up about how we feel about how things happen in our government, which is what Tyler's talking about, I think.
Especially when it affects us directly, which it just does. And it's more than just the housing rehab. As we'll see later on, CDBG funds are also used for many other purposes, including accessibility, which we're going to be looking at.
right.
Also, it's a source of funding to round out the appropriation that we got from the DEC with the Water Quality Improvement Program for doing sewers. It's the last mile, so to speak, that will help close the gap between other funding that we could obtain. And if it goes away, it can be a critical difference. It can make the difference between being able to do it and not being able to do it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite the letter, Greg.
Sorry.
We have advertised the Water District Advisory Committee position. And we've got 3 applicants. We didn't indicate a deadline. But I think we got enough to sort of proceed, but in the past, it has been Leslie's suggestion, and it's a good one usually, that people who are interested in the position be invited to attend a meeting to see what they'll be getting into before we appoint them. And also, it's a question, sometimes we interview people, and sometimes we don't. So I'm raising the question, how do we want to proceed with this? Because I do think we ought to say, well, this is going to happen, when it's going to happen. The next meeting of the Water District Committee is on June 4th. That's after our next board meeting. But this isn't, it's not critical that we go ahead immediately. We've got an interim with Marge Seaman on the committee anyway. I'm a little unhappy that we can't have her on as a permanent member, but she doesn't want to serve in that capacity anyway. She can always participate as a non-member. And complicating things a little bit.
You go first.
Well, let me just finish that thought. Complicating things a little bit is that because there are two people that the committee agrees would be good to put on, but only one position, Merrill offered the possibility of her resigning to open up another position. We could suggest that everybody attend the next meeting so they can, get to know each other and talk about that. And then if Merrill agrees to resign, then we have two positions to fill, and we can do that the following meeting, which would be the second meeting in June.
Meryl's also the secretary, isn't she?
Yes, but she could
So
still do that
that's-
even if she's not.
yeah. Pardon?
She could still be secretary without being.
Yeah. Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
There are two of them.
Two of them-
Can we just get the two people who are from West Danby
Two of
to
them.
attend the next meeting?
Well, we can invite all three.
Well, there was some concern about having somebody on the board or whatever you want to call it, who doesn't live in West Danby.
Yeah.
Which I actually agree with. I think the people on that board should be from West Danby and are connected to the water district somehow.
Right. I'm inclined to agree with that as well.
If we not want to invite them, then we probably should say something like that, we are not going to appoint them.
Right.
Otherwise, that is a little weird, not inviting them to a meeting when the others are.
Right.
I agree. I mean, technically, they're all three eligible because there's no residency requirement in the committee structure. And there's nothing that requires it to be. And in the future, but who knows how far in the future, if we were to expand into maybe to be a water district over here too, whether we would want to have two committees, one for each, or have just a town water advisory committee that would serve for the whole town. I don't know, but that's down the road.
Doesn't matter for now.
Yeah, Catherine.
I must not be recollecting correctly, but I understood that they wanted the West Danby Water Group wanted to have those people come to their meeting so that they could get to meet them.
That's what we're talking about.
Well, it sounds like you said we, and meaning this,
No.
this board.
No, he's talking about the.
I'm talking
Okay,
about
and then my understanding is that they were already in the process of inviting them.
I don't know if that's true or not, but
That's what they said at the meeting. That was what I heard.
Mhm.
So it
Well,
might
good.
be that, but that's,
So we can just confirm that that's the case.
yeah.
Or do it on our own, and which means we would not make any decision. We would bring it up to the second meeting.
in
In
June, correct. And so the other question is, do we want to interview them before we have that appointment meeting? I know them both, but you all don't.
Well, I know one of them. I think the important thing is that they go to a meeting and we get the recommendation
We
or
want
the
it.
suggestion from the West Danby Water District.
That's a better
Folks.
idea, yeah.
Do we want a recommendation?
Yeah,
Because we recall, we got in trouble a few years ago with a group, which was the BZA at the time. with a
you know what,
recommendation.
I don't want to talk about that. You didn't get in trouble, I got in trouble.
I know.
So I want to consider any of the group's recommendations. It doesn't mean I have to agree with them or appoint who they want, but I think it's important, especially for that small group that's dealing with a utility, in their little hamlet that we consider, who they're, interested in having.
Mhm.
I agree.
And the recommendation would include why, which is what we need to know.
Yeah. And if we only have one position, it's an important thing to have.
Right, because then there's two, it would be theoretically
Well,
qualified.
they can decide about
Not just
Merrill.
Theoretically, the two supremely qualified.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So do we, so if, we haven't addressed the question, do we want to interview them before we consider appointing anybody?
Does anybody have questions for them? I suppose I would.
I think it'd be good if they come to that meeting, that they can go to the West Danby Water District meeting and then come just even for 10 minutes at the beginning of our,
June 19th? or whatever it is?
yeah, our second June
June
meeting.
16th.
Just to say, this is who I am and why I'm interested, and then they can go away and we can vote.
I mean, well, if, if they're really, supremely qualified, I mean, just like a cover letter or something, would probably answer all the questions I would have for an
Yeah.
interview.
I do like to see somebody and chat with them and
Get a feel for them.
ask questions. I mean,
Mhm.
paper is nice, but
But
not
sometimes
the
they
same
look
as
good on
meeting
paper and, in practice, they don't work out very well.
right,
Or vice versa. Sometimes people
Yep.
are,
Yeah.
yeah,
can't
Absolutely.
talk.
Well,
right.
right.
Yeah,
Right, all of which is an argument for, it's nice to see people and have a chance to.
yeah,
Interact. So, if they're going to attend the meeting, then there probably is less of a desire for them to, the committee members, to be present when we, interface with the candidates. Sure, we can invite them.
yes,
Because we have in the past, we've had like planning board people to interview, ask the planning board to, if they want to, contribute to the interview process, by asking questions too. Before we, as part of the process. Okay. So it sounds like a plan, as I say. The plan is to have them, to support their attending the next meeting, which outreach for which they are already taking place. I don't know whether they would invite all three or not. They might have. And then and then to have them recommend who they like. And then to have us invite the two. Should we ask the third just to say thank you, but no thank you at this point?
They, at the meeting, they were fairly clear on the distance and the requirement for being there was heavy on their minds.
I mean, I think there's a strong preference on the committee. And I share it, that it's nice to have the members of the water district committee be residents of the water district.
Makes sense.
Yeah, they have a stake in it for sure.
That makes sense to me.
But I can easily imagine in the future, that somebody being a West Danby resident, but just outside the district, because the district doesn't cover the whole hamlet. That's not the case this time, though. But somebody way your heck over on Curtis Road is a little out of the way.
Right.
Mariah,
I'm sorry. So Bob and Sue are the two applicants, and if the West Danby Water District Advisory Committee really likes Sue, but you're gonna have Bob and Sue come to the board meeting? And so you can say, Sue, we like you, but we don't like Bob?
yeah,
Well,
something like
I
that.
think.
well,
All right, just want to be clear.
that there was the other part of what the West Danby committee group, I'm gonna just say group, said that Merrill has volunteered to resign her position on the official group and continue as secretary and allowing then 2 new people, which sounds like a reasonable idea, especially because there are 2 of the members of the group right now are often very busy and not as easily available, for instance, in the summer or depending on the job, on their other jobs.
Yeah, that's a concern with the operator, not with the committee, but.
Then why did you think it was a problem for them not to be there? I
I
think,
didn't, you did.
no,
Leslie. I think since we didn't make it a criteria, part of the criteria that the person actually live in the water district. I really think that they should invite all 3 people to their meeting, meet them, chat with them. Or have them just sit at the meeting. They don't even have to talk with them. I don't,
Yeah.
but that those 3 attend that meeting. Hopefully they can. And then plan on coming to the first 10 minutes of our second June meeting. And in the meantime, we will have gotten the group's recommendation. Or we don't have to follow the recommendation,
No, we
but
don't.
we want it.
So you're talking about inviting all 3 to our June meeting?
I think we didn't say right up front,
We didn't.
only West Danby Water District
Because it's
participants.
Not in there, If they had been the only applicant, we would be saying, it's too bad nobody from West Danby applied.
That's a good point.
We maybe want to think about changing the bylaws or.
Well, I mean, if the group was created by a resolution of the board, we could change it.
Yeah.
But there's still the question of whether or not we can change their charge, which I've been meaning to ask Guy about. To make them more of a directing and less of a monitoring and absorbing group. Their charge currently is to sort of keep a finger on the pulse, to monitor what's going on with the district so as to be able to inform their main primary role, which is to advise us on all things water district. They're involved in the budget creation, they're involved in exploring the needs of the district going forward so that we could do forward planning. Those are things that are important to us as the group that's responsible for actually making the decisions. So, I mean, I think that group is very valuable.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but there's also the possibility that they could be what they seem to want to be, which is more of a directing group but whether that's legal or not.
Well, that's something we can.
Yeah, talk to the guy.
Long term.
Just haven't gotten around to it.
And as far as the requirement that they'd have to be from the water district, it makes sense to me that we wouldn't require that, but just give that preference, because what if we had an opening and the only person who applied or the only people who applied were outside the
Well,
district?
you can re-advertise.
Yeah, it could be,
So
it could be as
You
I
don't have
mentioned.
to hire somebody.
Yeah.
It could be somebody from West Danby, who's just outside the district.
It could be somebody like highly qualified who lives like 3 houses outside the district and they're one of the only people who applied. I could see how
Yeah.
it would be a bummer to be like, well, there's a rule that says it can't be you.
Yeah.
But it could be, as it is with other committees that we own, like that we have, like the CAC, where you have preferences for certain constituencies.
Right.
And if you could do it with one of those, great.
Okay.
And if you can't, then you take what you get. But
that's the same thing with the youth commission as well.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the game plan is all 3, we hope all 3 will get invited to attend their meeting. They'll make a recommendation. We'll invite all 3 to be present when for answering questions, get to know you before we make a decision on the 19th of June. I'm not going to 16th of June.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. There's another committee, there's another position. Someone has applied to be an alternate on the planning board. And Leslie will remember, but probably nobody else will, that we have a provision for appointing alternate members to the planning board. And we only used it once, I think, years ago. And I think I might have been one of the two that was an alternate for a brief while. And the other one never showed up. But I don't remember, Greg, and maybe you can answer this question, whether the alternate gets to serve if there's a quorum present, or only if a quorum is, only to make a quorum.
Yeah, I'm gonna, yeah, that's.
Yeah, so they have to be
Look at
down.
Danby's, but usually that's how it is.
I looked at it,
The
yeah.
alternate can show up at the meeting and weigh in, and
Yeah.
whatever, but they can't vote unless that the board needs a quorum.
That could be.
Okay.
Right.
And I guess, well, let me just look if it says anything. I guess they,
I
Did
looked
did
it
they
up.
sit at the
Yeah.
table?
Huh?
I don't remember that either. Whether they participate in the discussion, but don't vote,
You mean just a regular meeting where they're not needed?
right? Or whether they're not needed, when they're not needed to make a quorum. Because they are an alternate member, but the question, are they, when they're not participating as a voting member, what's the level of participation? Can they, do they just attend, but they're not really part of the
So-
group discussion?
So what's the need? I mean, is it because of the one meeting that
Yeah, it happened once this year, right? We must have.
once this year was a problem?
right,
But a lot of, for some reason, people just didn't come.
right, yeah, they were all sick.
I mean, it happened once. I would really like us to really think about this before doing it. I mean, there's a reason why originally it said that there would be up to 2 alternates.
Right.
And we changed it to maybe, the town may appoint.
Yeah, it's not by no means
because
obligated to do so.
We were really not wanting to have it be a mandatory thing, because there was some problems in it. I don't think it was when you were, an alternate, but it was, if you're an alternate and then there's an opening, it's sort of an assumption, at least that's what was happening.
Yeah.
The assumption was the alternate, and it's like, well, maybe not. And it ended up that's when we decided to change it to that the board may. And we haven't had one since, and it's, I think it's only been a problem like maybe twice.
Yeah, well, the other problem, such as it is that, it's hard to be motivated to attend regularly so that you're in a
Yeah.
position to participate.
Right.
If you only get to do it once in a blue moon.
They also have to do the training.
Yeah.
So it's a can of worms that I want us to really think about.
Right.
Well, I'll just say, so in the language, it's not if a quorum is needed, it's just if a regular member can't make it.
Right.
So they could vote. And I'll just say, so I'm an alternate member on the Enfield Planning Board, and I show up to every meeting, and I rarely have ever voted on anything.
Do you participate?
But I actively participate and just sort of talk to the board about things, and we all talk, and then I sit there while they all vote. But they have, I know that the chair has, and some town board members have thanked me just for being involved in the board, even if I'm not a voting member. So it depends on who is the alternate member, but they might be able to
Right.
provide
Right.
really good insight. And I know the person who has applied has a background in architecture and design, and she's been very engaged in like some of the Design Connect project and.
Yeah, she's been attending the Design Connect.
I would really like to think about it a little more.
Well, I mean, we could interview her just so we're going, like with any other appointment.
No, I think, I agree with, sorry, but I agree with Leslie. If we interview, that indicates that we're doing it.
Yes,
I think it's better to discuss and think what the merits and what the problems are, and think about it, instead of, I'm not prepared to make that decision tonight.
We don't have to take it.
To zero in on the one thing that you mentioned about if somebody is the alternate, it has the appearance of being like a pathway to the full
For
job.
that person.
So are there pros and cons to that? Because, to me, that doesn't seem terrible. I mean, that seems like kind of
What's wrong with that?
like on the job training type of a thing. I mean, what is is there a significant cost to the town?
Just depends on who the person is.
Right,
Because
this
it's
is-
also a bit of like a probationary thing too, like you could do it as like, the people who would get to decide if that person does, succeed the person who had the role before them would kind of be able to get their eyes on how they work and see if they like that person in the job as, as an alternate. I don't know.
I think probationary is completely different from alternate, sorry. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't, I think, I mean, I know that there are some people that, attend meetings and participate and offer ideas or suggestions as being just community members. Which is usually really helpful.
Yeah.
Although,
Sometimes.
unless you're in a position like an alternate, you're really the only opportunity to do it is privilege of the floor. Unless you're invited or as part of a public hearing,
or invited by the
Things are-
chair,
or
which
invited by the
happens.
chair.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's a
There are
chair's
people who
discretion.
participate, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious, is there concern about this person who's applied? 'Cause
I'm not
I-
sure who it is, I can guess, but, I don't know,
Okay,
I don't know.
cause I
Might-
did open the door,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a town board decision, but I did,
Yeah.
she had expressed interest about being involved and I said,
Yeah.
well, why don't you write to Joel, and then Mariah pointed me that there is actually an application process, so that's where it is.
I mean, are there positions on the CAC open?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, we have
I
several.
mean, that might be a good place to steer somebody.
Term,
um,
what's the term of office for the alternate?
2 years.
2 years, so it's
2.
not like a 7-year
No,
sentence.
So what is the downside of, what are like the negatives involved with that appearance that, it would be like on the job training for taking over
that,
is there a downside to that?
that's not really
Okay,
what I was, in the past, when we've had alternates who, when a position came open, it was awkward, bad feelings because they weren't appointed and so
right.
that's just part of it. I mean, it's a 7-member group. It's sort of making it 8 members, whether or not they vote.
I can see that.
I mean, if we have somebody who really wants to get involved and they have a lot of talent or things to offer, we have openings.
Run of the group.
Um,
But depending on what you're really interested in.
and the person may be actually really qualified to help with that committee that has openings.
Mhm.
Would an alternate be a paid position?
No, none of them.
No, nobody's paid with many of these.
They're all volunteers.
But, and there are different charges. For instance, the CAC has a little bit more,
It's more,
because of a little bit of governing, like, well, the easement thing is,
well, yeah, I mean, it's administration, but its focus is in very much environmental, and the planning board that's part of what the planning board does, but it's not the only.
Yeah,
the
those
main
two.
focus, really.
I didn't realize we're talking about a planning board alternate member
Yes.
rather than
Right.
an alternate for you.
No,
I'm
no,
staff.
How can- you can-
You're what?
you couldn't
well,
have
that's
an
another,
alternate.
that's another
Staff
discussion.
for the town.
Right, that's why I was asking if the
Yeah.
alternate was a paid position, because I thought it was an alternate to your position.
No,
No, no, no.
No.
Okay,
no, the planning board, the
Okay.
Yeah.
7-member
There's-
planning board.
okay.
very different.
You're not changing your thoughts any.
No,
I
it's
don't
not.
think
Alternate for.
I don't see any problem with waiting until the next meeting for people to think about this and then vote on it. I don't see a problem.
Would we like to have the person come and talk to us? or-
Not if the issue right now is whether we want to have that kind of a position, period.
Right,
Who's applying is not relevant.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we want to wait first till we want to have the position filled. And then if it's a yes, then we want to talk to the person.
Well,
How
I mean, the
many-
position exists. The position
We
exists.
may appoint.
We may appoint to it.
But we haven't decided if we will appoint to it, so I don't wanna have
Yep,
somebody come if if we then vote not to appoint, that's silly
Well,
and mean.
well, except that, the fact that the position exists at all and that somebody can apply for it, takes you partway down the road. You're already past the point of saying, if we don't want to have the position at all, why do we have the position?
That might be a good question.
Well, because somewhere down the road, we might want to have that position. I'm not,
Well, then we should put it in when we.
how many positions are on the CAC?
9,
Too many.
How many vacancies are there?
Lots.
4.
Is there any way you could suggest?
I
Or-
could, I mean,
Um,
personally, I think this person would be great as a planning board alternate. Yeah, I don't know if she would be interested in CAC, maybe, I think she's just gotten was excited about the Design Connect project and came to those meetings and offered very good input. I felt just really balanced input and was very engaged, and so she was just really excited. But I think if the response is, board's not gonna appoint an alternate member this time, that's the board's.
well, just even that we haven't. May take a little while to make a decision, but
She hadn't come into the planning board meetings, has she?
She has.
yeah, she's been, yeah,
Yeah,
if it is who I think it is.
I don't necessarily like the idea of saying, well, you're trying to get into government, we don't have a position for you on that board. Maybe just try a different board, because I just feel like
There's openings.
they're not the same. I mean, if her
Yeah.
aptitude is planning, I don't know how. That might not show like the proper amount of respect to the CAC either.
But she's got a lot
Yeah,
of,
or
she's
the-
got, she's got background in a lot of different things, including, plants and I mean, just all, she's got a well-rounded background.
Mhm.
I'm looking at the website and I don't see alternate planning board member listed.
No, it's not.
No, you almost have to know, which Greg did, which is why he suggested it.
It's on the secret.
Yeah. Because it's not, yep, it does exist, when you mentioned it to me, yeah, it's taken a while since we've done it,
There's
but,
other.
yeah.
Oh,
Well, yeah, but it's another, all right. I mean, you wouldn't know. It's been a long time. But it does exist, so it's like, and having been told that it exists and being suggested, why don't you try for it? She did. And so it raises the question, well, why wouldn't we entertain it? If somebody qualified comes along, why not line somebody up to fill in when the opening on the planning board, appears?
I agree completely. I would have loved to have been more engaged with this for like several months before being a member. I mean, that would be a great opportunity. I feel like I'm still catching up to,
The alternate
what
town
we
board
hear.
position.
And
yeah,
I think it's clear, we can certainly make it clear to anybody that being an alternate doesn't mean that you have priority of getting appointed the next time. That would be appropriate.
That would be a
So
good
that
idea.
eliminates that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would just like to, I was, actually, it's the first, when I saw it, I was like, what? So it just was new to me. That it was, that
Well, I
it came
think-
up, so I
right.
would like some time to even think about it. I don't,
I do think that we should not appoint somebody as an alternate to the planning board that we don't think would serve well as a member of the planning.
you don't know, I mean,
Well, that's why we should go through the same process in evaluating them as a potential
Mhm.
member of the planning board. As we would with somebody who's actually applying for a position on the planning board. They're actually applying for a position on the planning board that they only get to do once in a while. But they are serving as a planning board member when they are seated to serve in somebody's stead. So, it's appropriate that we interview them and take stock of them and say, yes.
yeah, if we want to have an alternate,
Yes.
you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I would go even a step further, and I would say, you know, because it's an optional position that we don't have to fill, we should only fill it if we have somebody who's really great for the position. I mean, somebody who would be very qualified to be on the board would be the only reason to have an alternate. Because, you know, I wouldn't see it as like an internship for like a, you know, young up and comer who like needs to learn the ropes. It would be more like, let's get you on to this board
Because you're helpful.
because you're especially helpful, not just because like you like
More
deserve
figured
to
out.
learn it, you know, we want to like encourage you to learn it, like wouldn't be my reason. I would say, you know, you're going to be such an asset to this board if you get a chance that like we should fill an optional position that we don't have to fill for you.
Catherine.
The only problem I have with that is that this board is not qualified to specifically to say everything that a planning board person might. I mean, we planning board people have a different training that are required of them, and I think that the same thing we just said about the West Danby, it's kind of nice to hear from the planning board what they also think, or, you know, I'm not suggesting it, I'm just saying that.
Yeah, we do appoint in both cases, so, yeah, do you think it would be worthwhile? Well, they're already attending the meetings. So we can't just say, well, attend the meeting and see what it'd be like. They have been attending and they would like to be part of the group.
In this case, we do have a recommendation, Greg's recommendation, because
Yeah,
of
but-
his suggestion that based on that would be helpful for the committee. And he's an employee that we put in that position.
Right.
We've got a lot of faith in you, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, that being said, it's still, it's the board's decision, so if the response is, we don't want to fill that seat at this time, then I think there needs to be no further review of that, but.
Not where I am.
What?
I mean, I think I know who the person is, but I believe I've only had one conversation with her. But you know, we haven't said her name, so I don't know if I'm thinking the same person.
But I don't think I've had any conversation with her. Because I wasn't here in person when she had been attending in person. So I would appreciate an opportunity to interview her before appointing her to, you know, a potentially position on the planning board.
If we decide that we would like to have an alternate to the planning board, then that makes sense. We haven't decided that we want to, well, maybe I'm the outcast.
I'm in favor of having somebody as an alternate, if they're especially qualified and it does take care of the outside problem when there's shorter person and
happened
somebody
once.
else can be there. No, he just said, it's not just they can take anybody's position, not just to meet a quorum. That's what he said. He looked up the regulations.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Well, we've only needed, the main reason for an alternate was if there's not enough people to make a quorum. But if, you know, it says they can also vote if there's somebody who's just absent and there already is a quorum. That's
a good question.
So that's different and far more meaningful. So essentially you're appointing someone who will get to serve.
right,
Unless, if anybody's not there,
right.
which is not uncommon, that there's at least one absence. And that would be a much more meaningful role too.
Yes.
Can we get clarity on that?
I mean, that's what
He
it
just
says,
did.
it's
He
just
looked
as
it
if a
up.
regular member is not, it doesn't say.
They don't get to vote, but they get to participate as a member.
No.
Well,
Or does it say?
they don't need to fill when there's not a quorum, they
Anytime.
would fill when there's a regular member that's not
Not
able to be
there.
there.
So they're voting
They're
anytime,
voting anytime.
One's missing.
Anytime that they're serving.
right? Anytime that anybody is missing, one person missing, they serve.
Yeah,
And
that's a much more meaningful role.
yes, it is. Yes, it
And
is.
assures that you're gonna have a goodly number of people participating in a decision that's before the board, whatever it is.
It means you're not shorthanded
Yeah,
at any meeting.
right,
And it's another voice that provides input, which is also important.
yeah.
I don't mind a voice that providing input, but I do mind if the person is when one planning board member is not there, and that the planning board is sort of familiar with how that person thinks, and may take that person's process into consideration when they're looking at the whole situation, that alternate, I don't know how, it feels, something feels a little worrisome to me that the alternate could, anytime anybody's absent, just become a voting, I don't know, some part of that is a little concerning to me, because the planning board has been working together now. If this alternate, if the requirement were that an alternate must attend an equal number of meetings as any other member, which we don't have probably a requirement of such, but
We don't have a requirement for any members.
that's what I just was saying. I'm extending it to
Members to
saying,
attend meeting.
what?
There's no requirement for members who are
that's what-
appointed to attend meetings.
That's what I was just, that was the extension of what I was saying, and I did say, but I'm saying that, let's say it were the town board. Let's just say it.
Okay.
And that all of a sudden, and anybody decided, we have somebody, somebody who comes to all the meetings, and then that person becomes an alternate, that person, if I'm absent, doesn't matter that I've been here working on the problems, and this other person can then just vote completely differently than the group who works together. I don't know. I don't know the answer to
Well, I
this.
think if it were to play out the way we're currently talking, which is say they fill in anytime anybody's not there, probability is pretty high that they'll be participating most of the time. So they may be, they may be as much a party to any
Right.
conversation and decision making
true.
as a regular
That's
member.
true.
Right.
It's true.
Right.
I just don't know whether.
They'd be
how-
having an
how I feel
8-member
about it.
board, planning board, really.
Yeah.
Except that, well, it's gonna be at least 7 at play every time, unless more than one is absent, but
Well, there was in the past, a long time ago, there was a planning person who only attended half the meetings of the year. But that
Yeah.
person, yep,
that happens.
Right.
We've got the same issue with the CAC currently.
so, I don't know. I don't know, I don't really know how I feel about this. I'm slightly
Yeah.
uncomfortable about it.
Yeah, but maybe the bottom line is that the planning board could have a discussion about it.
Yeah,
Well, I'm okay with that. Why don't we do that? Why don't we request that the planning board consider whether an alternate member would be an asset? And then
But, I mean,
recommend to us.
what makes it difficult is there's somebody specific. I mean,
Well,
it's hard to divorce yourself from that and say, is this something that the group really needs? Is this something the group wants? Is it gonna change the dynamics? Is it gonna, anyway,
Well, and
So-
having the particular person in view, what's wrong with that influencing that?
what?
What's wrong with having a particular person who would fill the position? What's wrong with that person essentially influencing how the group might think about whether it's good to have an alternate? or
because
not?
that means they're already an alternate without being appointed.
It just means that you're not really, it's hard to divorce yourself from thinking about, does this group need this position? Is this position helpful? When, there's a specific name involved and it's, well, that person would be really helpful. Well,
And-
maybe the next person won't be. I don't,
Well,
I
if
just
they-
think makes it difficult.
Right, and if they're not, then,
Don't appoint them
they
next
don't
time.
have a point.
I think in some cases that might be beneficial. It might be helpful for somebody to talk about an alternate position if they know that somebody that is actively attending and has been actively attending is interested in serving that position.
I
That
don't
might
agree.
make it better to have something.
Yeah, I don't
It's
agree
like
with that.
it's
Yeah.
like having stringers, I mean, you've got somebody who's, in line for the position, in fact, that you had a chance to try out before the actual need arises to put somebody put somebody in the position. And it, you know, we've been, it'd be nice to have a bench, you know, for several of our groups. If we had more people interested than can we actually put on and a way for them to be engaged without saying, well, you know, wait until we find when, you know, somebody decides not to re-up that is doing an okay job before you know, maybe we can plug you in, you know, in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years.
I have to say that I think that the town and especially Greg has made it a lot of opportunity for many people to participate and get involved
Yeah.
without changing, you know, the structure of groups. And I don't mean that I'm not open to changing, but I think that there are lots of opportunities for people to get involved. And a lot of it has been, you know, Greg's
Well, there is one coming,
doing
9.6 on the agenda is one of those,
is what.
community meetings.
Well, yeah, that's coming up.
So just to agree with what you just said, I do think that it promotes like institutional knowledge to get people involved with that 1 foot in the door. Because then you get that overlapping continuity when someone steps out, someone is hypothetically, if they were doing a good job and we wanted to approve them for the full position after, because none of those jobs are elected, they're all appointed by us. So it's, you know, a better interview process, if you ask me. I mean, we do the regular interview process for the partial position like we would for the full position. But then we have at least one candidate kind of, like you said, on the bench, just like waiting, you know, the minor leagues or something, waiting to be promoted to full-time, and they've already got all of that on the job training, and they already are a part of the discussion, and they're aware of what's been going on for the past 2 years or whatever.
And if they're not good, we know that as well and don't appoint.
Exactly, that's kind of what I'm getting at with saying the other side of it.
They're already a member.
Right, well, for 2 years, and then
Yeah.
at the end of that,
Wow.
Well, yeah, the 2
don't
years.
appoint them again.
It's a 2
Right,
years.
right,
thing.
right. Fire somebody.
It's not like
You know,
appointed by for
just-
some 7 years, where if they don't work out, it's like, oops, well, you know, wait another 6 years before you get rid of it.
It also creates a situation where, I mean, I don't know, for better or worse, if you have 8 or 9 people on a board and there's an alternate, maybe maybe you can trust in your alternate because it's there for you to be like, hey, I have to be out of town this week. It's just much better for me to be out of town this week than it would be to try and figure out how to do this some other way. And you don't have to feel too guilty about missing your responsibility of the vote that week, because we have a system in place where there is an alternate and you don't have to. I don't know, it's not quite as demanding of a position for the other people on the board because they have.
You're not on
big
you're not
enough
on the
group.
phone, you know, 5 minutes after the meeting, you're supposed to start trying to get another member there to muster a quorum. We've been there a couple times too, but we just barely managed it because at the last minute it gets called up and said, oh, I
Yeah.
forgot, or whatever.
Yeah, I wonder, that's funny how that happens, isn't it? Isn't it, Joel?
But I mean, it isn't 5 o'clock.
I would like to drop this subject.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe bring it up at I don't know whether Greg has already talked with planning board members.
Well, I mean, should we ask the planning board's input?
The meeting's tomorrow, I'll be there, I'll ask.
Okay.
I mean, obviously this is an open meeting, so someone could just, but I mean, it could be asked as generally.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
got an alternate, and then.
Yeah,
and then
without
following up with,
mentioning any names,
"Oh, we have a-
yeah.
They may be sitting in the meeting.
I mean, it's also been very nice having participants and people sitting there. Which for a long time, we didn't have.
True.
And it's really nice and, you know, so, anyway. Okay. I'll see if I can find a way to influence their decision.
It's hard to imagine them not saying, yes, we want this, if she's sitting in the room with them. I feel like the social human element people are going.
It's a
to
lot
all
of work.
agree
The
that they want
planning board isn't a
to say they
social
like her.
Right.
thing, you know,
Yes.
it's not social.
Okay.
They have
It's
a
really-
tough job and
Yeah.
they've had some really difficult situations. So,
Right.
It is weird asking them to make a recommendation with the person sitting in the room right there, you know, I mean.
well, I'll tell her to go away if she's there.
Step outside.
Public meeting.
Is she there?
No, but we as a group are not, is that what you're suggesting?
Huh?
But we as a group are not,
We're not what?
we, the town board, are not asking the planning board to weigh in.
The planning board's meeting tomorrow.
Yes, I know the meeting tomorrow. The question is, are we, the
Officially.
town board, asking the planning board to consider whether or not we, the town board, should appoint an alternate member?
Yeah, I'll ask him.
Yeah, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
So do it on our behalf.
But I'm gonna say something
Yes.
like, you guys don't want, you know, that's what I'm going, I got it.
I'm sure you'll be impartial. All right.
Beat that horse.
Yeah, we did. But the horse needed beating, you know, it's been a long.
Poor horse.
Space for all.
Oh, boy.
I think we're in the same position this month that we were last month, which is, did you check that? They
Is it
haven't yet
done?
posted, right? The appendices that gives the specifics for what's recommended in each town as part of the plan?
Right, yeah, those aren't posted yet. So this is a little bit of a cart before the horse. In that email that I sent after last meeting, I explained that, right, the project team, this is for the Safe Streets for All, big joint safety action plan that the county and 10 municipalities have been working on for the last year and a half or so. To improve street safety. They're working on the plan. As part of the plan adoption, they're asking for resolutions from the town saying that they endorse the plan, they support the plan and adopt this Vision Zero, which, you know, all sort of laughs aside, is just about reducing the amount of fatalities on roads as well as reducing serious injuries by 50%.
By 2040.
By 2040, right? So they're asking for the resolution. There was clarity. I was the only one who asked the question of why are we next to sort of endorse a plan that's not yet finalized. It feels a little like cart before the horse. And they said it's completely fine if municipalities want to just later, after the plan is finalized, to then adopt a resolution endorsing the plan. What that endorsement does is if Danby were to go after grant funding for these safety measures here on Danby Road and then down in West Danby. And then importantly, if Danby didn't want to, or another municipality didn't want to endorse the plan before the final plan was all together, it doesn't hurt another municipality's chances of seeking grant funding for this. It sounds like the county is going to be applying this year for some road safety improvements and going to use this plan as that. So if municipalities don't feel comfortable to sign on to it quite yet, it won't hurt their
Do you have
chance.
an idea of where the county, what roads they were gonna
No,
target?
no,
No.
I could certainly ask,
It
but
still seems peculiar because with what essentially we have is a ratification process for the plan.
right,
That's before all the participating municipalities. And yet, and then we're in a public comment period on that plan before the municipalities, you know, pass their resolutions approving the plan. But the public is not given the materials to comment on before the vote is called for. It doesn't make any sense.
That's why he just said we don't have to do it. now.
yeah.
So I would say we just wait again until we get here.
So I would say we wait until we do.
Yes.
That's fine.
So I'm not gonna keep pulling it up. It's gonna be like, they kind of asked us to do this by May 21st, wasn't it?
I think
It
I
was
saw
supposed
today.
the deadline to provide comments on the almost final plan was May 14th, so that's passed. What we were providing comments on originally were the specific locations
right.
Yeah.
and the actual improvements. We have yet to see a finalized version of that.
Right.
So if there's a little bit of, you know, caution about getting behind something, it's understandable, because we don't know what those final recommendations are. They're probably not gonna change too much. We did provide comments and they were receptive to the town board and planning board's comments the last time. And we provided a few extra comments for them to look at, but they weren't anything major.
No, and
Right.
what's missing is an opportunity for the public to weigh in.
Right, I mean, they did have the public meeting on the 30th.
And for which they also didn't have that same information, the
Okay.
specifics for each town.
I
The
do
nice
think there was,
idea,
Boy,
I do think there was, I'm sorry.
to be able to go after funding, would it have to be for specific things they have in the plan?
I
Or,
think that's the idea.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Well, I did think, I noticed something pretty significant that seems to be missing from the whereases. I liked all the whereases that are listed, all the rationales for,
Yeah.
why we need to focus on reducing traffic collisions and injuries. Those are all good for the perspective, but I think Rhonda might have brought it up several weeks ago. I also noticed that it doesn't seem to say anything about wildlife in the whole whereas, and I feel like wildlife are probably implicated in like the vast majority of the collisions in Danby, right?
That's a good point, true.
So it seems like most of the accidents are probably related in some way to wildlife. And I don't, off the top of my head, I don't have like immediate
many of them.
affordable solutions to,
That keeps the deer from jumping in front of people's cars, right?
right. But I do think that it should be, a point of interest in our efforts. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so integral to why cars wreck around here.
Yeah, how do we train the deer to not jump in front?
Yeah, I mean, like we could do a series of land bridge overpasses if we have hundreds of millions of extra dollars lying around.
The town can add in whatever it wants, and it can subtract anything it wants, except it's, the point of this resolution is endorsing the plan,
Yeah.
Yeah,
adopting the goal of eliminating traffic deaths and a 50% reduction in serious injuries by 2040, and endorsing a Vision Zero as a comprehensive and holistic approach. Excuse me, and then that's the first one, and then
Yes.
adopting the joint safety action plan. That's just the purpose of the resolution. If you want to add things about wildlife, I'll just say that it won't have any bearing on, it'll likely not have any bearing on any future funding prospects. You reminded me too, Tyler, that there was also another comment last time about racial profiling.
Right.
That whereas people of color are disproportionately affected
yeah.
by racial profiling and inequitable enforcement of traffic violations. And it was brought up by a town judge that, that should just be removed.
What's that got to do with crashes and
And
fatalities?
that Danby, the resolve where Danby adopts the goal of eliminating racial profiling and equitable enforcement of traffic violations. Does the town, and I think there was some concern that the town isn't involved is not doing that right now. I mean,
Well, you could also say what relevance is that to
Right.
frequency of crashes and fatalities?
it's not maybe about the crashes, but about the enforcement of traffic violations.
But that's not what this is. This is to eliminate
Safe streets, right?
deaths and
Injury.
and accidents, whereas, I mean, I a little differently than Gary had stated. I mean, these three I believe are true. I mean, they're facts, but I don't feel like they impact or have an impact on traffic deaths or serious car accidents. I mean, they are a different, that they belong in a different thing. They don't go in here, I feel. I mean,
They're not relevant to the goal, right?
they just didn't fit. It's like,
Mhm.
shoes and then there's something about socks, it's.
So they got in there.
What's that?
Yeah, how did those
Yeah.
sections get in?
The consultant said that they reviewed other municipalities across, across the US and the types of funding that they were going after. And they kind of, this is like a best practice resolution, essentially, putting in, but they said that they didn't advocate any further. They said that the town can remove that if it wants, it's completely fine. The purpose, though, is that if you do want to be eligible for some of these funding, is that the Vision Zero and then just adopting the action.
Yeah,
Those are the two most important
Yeah, I
things.
understand the motivation, and I think it's noble, you know, it's nice to try to get our enforcement to be not biased in its application. But I don't see where even the biased application of enforcement is going to make much difference in terms of how many crashes we get, how many people get killed.
He said,
What measures we
he
can
said that
take.
we could take that out, that it didn't matter,
Yeah.
so we don't have to worry about that one.
We could take, so what we're suggesting, I guess, is that we in fact take it out.
I would, I mean, you could stretch it and say, well, you
Doesn't
know,
harm
if there's
anything,
a
right?
chase, you know,
Right, exactly, and then, you know, and then somebody
maybe
gets.
somebody
hurt
who's
because of-
targeted and,
Yeah.
you know, maybe that's true, but those three just, to me, didn't go in here, they don't go in here. They go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Do we have any control over the enforcement? We don't have
Well,
like a
yes,
Danby officer.
yes and no. I mean, we do not, town of Danby doesn't have its own enforcement. We rely on the sheriff's department. Our ability to influence how they operate is not it's not insignificant, but it tends to be episodic, you know. We complain if there's no enforcement and there's a bunch of speeding on a road, you know, and then they do, you know, more enforcement for a while, that kind of thing. But, you know, we're not directly engaged with how the sheriff's department operates. And they are our enforcement.
What's the third one you're referring to?
Well, there's the two whereases, and then the town of Danby adopts the goal of eliminating racial profiling and inequitable enforcement of traffic
You mean
violations.
the two whereases on the top of the second
Yeah,
page?
yeah. And then
It's in the therefore.
And the second paragraph under now, therefore,
Why would we want to remove the town of Danby adopts the goal of eliminating racial profiling and
I don't
filing and
I don't
inequitable
feel like it
enforcement of
has
traffic
anything to
violations?
It
do
doesn't
with,
apply to this
Yeah.
issue. This issue is safe streets.
Well,
So put it in
whoever,
something else.
whoever constructed this document thought that it applied.
well, there's other things,
Not necessarily.
I mean,
Well, I just wonder how it would have gotten in here if they didn't think it
Somebody
applied.
put anything you can in and let's
I
get
don't know.
everything at
Do you know
once,
how
whether
they
it
got-
applies or not.
As I said, they put them in from just drawing on other examples across
Yeah.
the country, and so they thought this was a best practice.
This is
but-
part of the whole context of you know, diversity, equity, inclusion, and in addressing the inequities in the way laws are enforced, which is all noble. It's just that
Yeah.
it's a peculiar place for it to manifest. Because I don't think it's relevant to or going to change anything here. You know, it would be nice, it might be worthwhile for us to adopt a resolution that was just that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, but it's not, its connection to this is kind of weird. What they're doing in this context.
And I don't suppose that if we adopted a resolution saying that we have a goal of eliminating racial profiling and inequitable enforcement of traffic violations, that we would take any kind of action to actually do that.
And I think we have such a statement, don't we, Greg, in a policy,
Maybe our procurement policy.
it's not procurement, but there's the Title III. There's a couple of places where we commit to you know, equitably doing things.
I don't,
Maybe not this specifically, because we're not as, you know, we don't have a police force. I mean, our ability to do anything in response to a
yeah, it
statement
might
saying
make
that.
sense. Some of this stuff is out of California.
Yeah, I'm personally struggling to connect this to traffic injuries or fatalities myself. I just I see the statement and it reads as true to me, so I feel like it.
But why is
You
it
know,
here?
I don't exactly know. I
Are
wish
you
I could
on-
tell you why it's in this document, but
are you specifically talking about the first, whereas about the older adults, et cetera?
No, I'm actually, I'm
Talking
talking about the
second
second one.
resolve.
Yeah, I think it's
This is part of the resolution.
it's
also the whereas.
mirrored in the whereas and the
Right,
result.
exactly.
They're
And
basically
if
the same.
if I recall, what Gary was objecting to was the first one. And the thing is that, as Greg just said, it's from, if this data is taken from across the country, let's say you did a traffic study, sorry, I'm gonna just say this anyway, in a retirement community, someplace where all the people are still have their driver's licenses were over 80 and bumped into things right and left, or cut out in front of somebody and causes an accident. I mean, these things, if the statistics, they're just statistics. People use them to say anything they want. So if the statistic isn't important in here, that would be, maybe that's the question that we're saying. Is this statistic required in order for us to look at trying to make us have fewer accidents and deaths in this case, Danby, but it's not just Danby. It's how many towns are involved in this particular one? 10.
I gotta say, I don't think it would be appropriate at all to remove the first one on the second page, just because
What's the first one?
whereas children, older adults, people of color, people with disabilities, people who are unhoused, and people with low income face a significantly disproportionate risk of traffic injuries and fatalities.
That's okay.
I feel like that's
That's relevant.
absolutely appropriate. It's related directly to injuries and fatalities, and we can talk about anecdotes or statistics, and I mean, this reads to me almost exactly like when you say that not everyone has the same outcomes when they head to the maternity ward. The reasons are, systemic, and there's lots of contributing factors. You wouldn't want to, nail it down to just one thing at a time for any individual person. But when you look at statistics, you would see that what it says there is true, and that if we want to tackle our injuries and highway fatalities problem, small as it might be, I mean, it would make sense to me to acknowledge that children and older adults and everybody else on that list is more at risk of injuries on the road.
Mhm.
In
I
the
mean, just
meanwhile,
'cause it's true.
we have to look at the time.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And even allowing for my tardiness, we're at time.
We
should-
started the meeting 6 minutes after.
Yeah. So I move we give ourselves another 20 minutes to get through the agenda.
How much more is there?
Three more after.
Want to really second that motion?
Sorry, I've been extra chatty today.
Second. You sure have. That's all
Okay
right.
with that?
No.
Closing conversation, time just flew.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
Me,
Was that Pat?
yeah.
Yeah. Shall we vote?
What's
Yes.
the time? 20?
Yeah. The big one, 8:30.
Connors?
Yes.
Hunter?
Okay.
Stein?
Yes.
Woodworth?
Yes.
Gagnon?
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't know. I mean, I would vote to take those three things out. I mean, I believe them all three to be true and factual. But I
Pretty
don't
relevant.
think they're helpful when we're thinking about what do we do to reduce deaths and
Serious,
injuries.
right, that's an
I,
injury.
Well, I think one of them is directly about injuries and fatalities.
Yeah, I agree.
Me too. But that other one is not.
Doesn't
Which
seem
one
to
do you
be.
think?
It's
But they're-
really
so
hard
they're
to
in the-
imagine how, and maybe I'm
Hmm.
out of context, maybe I just don't know why that's there. I don't.
Like having a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit in the middle of what is dangerous for all the kids and stuff who might use the street.
You could put that where, I mean.
Well, for instance, kids walk a lot. Kids are pedestrians.
Ride their bike.
They
and
cross the street.
Play in the
a lot.
streets.
Yeah, they play basketball in the middle of the road.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that they are, and it's probably the most at risk. of traffic
Yeah.
injuries.
Okay, so then just take out the other two.
Well, elderly people would be in a similar boat too.
So
you know,
how are you
walking
gonna
slower
plan,
sometimes.
how are you gonna plan for them not to get hit?
Sidewalks, I guess.
Lower the speed limit.
Yeah,
Sidewalks
lower
aren't
the
the
speed
plan,
limit.
I think. Oh, they are on one side.
Lower the speed limit at crosswalks.
Not down in
sidewalks.
West Danby though, you don't get sidewalks.
I think one of the benefits of having something like that in there, acknowledging that's an issue, is when you apply for grants, it may be helpful to explicitly put that in there. We've been dealing with children. With the crosswalks here, it's a huge issue. It's not a minor issue. It belongs in safety in
All right,
roads.
so let's just take out the other two.
People with disabilities.
The where-
Do you just
whereas-
want to take out people of color?
Huh?
No, she's talking about the. two.
Oh,
She's talking
okay. I
about
thought you were talking about two in the list.
No, she's talking about the one,
Yeah.
whereas.
Sorry,
the
I'm sorry. I
corresponding-
didn't mean to imply. I just, when I heard that, I was like, okay.
The whereas and the corresponding resolve that we all seem to think is like true, but not relevant.
Yeah.
Can that happen, Greg, for when it finally comes back up?
I'm sorry, I was looking at something. Can you say that again?
We want to take out of the resolution, that,
The second paragraph and then that second paragraph on the
Fine.
other.
Are you moving that tonight?
Yeah,
what, taking it out?
taking out,
Okay.
The
We're not-
second-
Still not moving the resolution.
whereas on the
We're
second
They're
page.
taking those things out for when we consider the resolution.
But do you want to consider it tonight?
Do you, Arne?
If we take
Yeah.
those out,
Well,
then we, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the whole thing is so that all the, to try not to avoid having anybody else apply for a grant because Danby said no to certain things. I
Well,
mean, if
that's
everybody,
what
It doesn't happen.
It won't happen.
It won't have any bearing. I mean, it would be cleaner to include it as part of the final plan, but the town could always adopt it later and then it would be an addendum onto the plan. And then,
that's not what I thought I was saying. I thought you said that it would be nice if we did adopt it. Or not, whether or not we do this, I thought that the second question was, would we consider this tonight? That was my only thing I was saying.
that's what I was asking, is just,
Yeah.
would you consider?
So what's your feeling on that? Should we consider it tonight?
If we do these, if we take those out, if people are, I think we're just gonna go on and do this every week,
is this,
every
no,
Part,
meeting.
the point was that the decision should be made after we have the final appendix, because that's what we want to vote on. That applies to Danby, and that's important to us.
You don't know what the
And we're voting on it.
map's gonna look
We
like.
don't have the
Right.
Danby part in here yet.
yeah, I thought that was the big hang up for
That
me
was the big
too.
hangup, yeah.
Me
Yeah.
too. So that doesn't mean that we can't change the resolution for
Right.
when it comes up.
And I'll just make a note of that
Okay,
in my,
Yeah.
so when it comes up again.
you don't need to have it well, it wouldn't hurt to have it in a minute. I move we make that deletion.
I'll second that.
Okay,
It's the,
Mariah, could you come to vote, please?
Okay, I just want to confirm that you're deleting the two whereas clauses, the
Oh.
children,
One whereas and one resolve.
the 11th whereas clause,
okay?
the 11th one, and the second paragraph under now therefore be it resolved, the second paragraph.
Adopts a goal of eliminating racial profiling.
Yes,
Okay, very good. All right. Very good. Connors,
yes,
Hunter,
yes,
Stein,
No,
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon,
Yes,
excellent.
okay, so that is modified but not adopted.
Yeah.
And it won't come back up until we have the,
and maybe we'll think of a way to say something about wildlife.
between now and then.
okay. 9.6, community meetings to further support sewers. Greg and I had talked about having, and I think I might have mentioned at the previous town board meeting, a meeting in Danby and a meeting in West Danby to talk further about sewers. As a result of discussions that we've had with a variety of people from DEC, Environmental Facilities Corporation, outfit up in Syracuse, what do they call them?
So is that
Anyway,
what we,
it's now well, I mean, Greg thinks, and I'm inclined to agree with him, that it would be good to have an engineer on board, which we got this RFP out to do the map plan and report for the sewer district. It'd be good to have an engineer on board before we have these meetings so that they can attend and contribute to the discussion. So, you want to talk about timeline, Greg?
Sure. So I've reached out to firms through an RFQ to just get a quote. So there's nothing binding. It's just to
Right.
understand what it would cost to go through this legal process of creating 2 sewer districts. And that deadline is this Friday. I would imagine I imagine we're gonna get just one firm to respond, which is the one that Hunt, who put together the engineering report. Because it's this exercise is pretty much them kind of reworking their engineering report and just kind of in a legal document. But who knows, we might get more, and then the town can decide which one to work with, or none at all, and can do it again. So nothing's binding about this process. Assuming we get a reasonable quote this Friday, I can bring it back to the town board at next meeting and discuss if the town wants to enter into contract for services with this firm to go through the process of creating these sewer districts.
What are we talking, how are we gonna fund that? Is that,
Right, so that's why I asked for a quote, is where are we getting the money to pay for this? Guy Crow estimated that a map plan and report is anywhere from $5,000 to maybe $10,000. 10,000 if you have to go through like permissive referendum and things like that. But it should be a pretty, even actually another engineer quoted, if it's more than 2,000, don't go with that firm. It should be a very sort of minimal fee. Where's that money?
because we're a good chunk of the way there in the preliminary engineering report. It only needs refinement, so we're not talking about starting from scratch, we're talking about just filling it out enough so that you could actually get, bids for doing it.
And where would that money come from? The county has this housing affordability and supportive infrastructure grant. It's called HASIG, HASIG. And that is the money that we have been using to hire Tacoma development consultants to write the CDBG applications. So that's for up to $10,000. So if we get back a reasonable quote and it's under that 10,000, or if it's more, I guess then the decision is, do you want me to apply for that funding? It seems like unless the town has money to cover, I would say maybe it's worthwhile to wait to hear from the county if we're awarded that money.
What's the timeline for it? Is that an ongoing thing where
It is an ongoing, it's a rolling basis through September. And I heard last week that nobody has applied yet, but there are some bubblings from other municipalities that are about to apply. So I would like to apply sooner than later. That if it's $5,000 or less, the planning department can approve it. If it's over 5,000, between 5 and 10, it goes to the county legislature, which means it has to go through committees.
Yeah.
So it might take up to 2 months or so to kind of get us an approval on that. So the town could either wait to hear from the county if we're gonna be, get that money to then move forward with this sewer district formation process. Or it could say, let's just start this process so we get an engineer on board and we can schedule public meetings and get the community up to speed. Kind of hedging your bets a little bit that we will get county funding. And if we don't get county funding, then the town would have to cover the cost. So those are the sort of 2 potential paths. The sewer district formation, and this might feel like a lot, like, whoa, we're already talking about, district formation, but that process can take, the estimated time is 7 to 9 months. So we will be well into next year until if a district gets created.
And you need from what the guy told us, you need the district formation to precede applying for additional funding to build it.
Yeah.
Right. So there's still a lot of unknowns, which is why we've been holding off these community meetings. And I think that's just important for the public to know is just, why are we almost halfway through the year, we were awarded 6 months ago. Where are the community meetings? And Joel and I had a small community meeting at the Danby Food and Drink a while ago, but really we want to write to everybody in the potential benefited areas, have really well advertised meetings with maybe a panel. I'm thinking kind of a panel of people, you know, an engineer, maybe, you know, guy would be available, other kind of, maybe somebody from the county health department, Scott Freiberger could be available. We could have a sort of a panel of people that are more, you know, experts on
People can.
sewering, right? So timeline for those community meetings, well, we're getting into summer, which is people's very busy time and people are away. You know, so just thinking about, you know, the summer timeline and then getting into early fall, that maybe, you know, hosting them kind of in the early part of the school year could be beneficial. The people are definitely in town. Maybe it's one meeting in the summer, just to kind of get the ball rolling, and then one meeting in the fall. We could have more than 2 meetings. I advertised out for engineering firms that they should be available for 4 meetings, 2 community meetings and 2 board meetings. Certainly we could ask them to be available for more, but I asked them to put a price together for that.
So.
Yeah, there's a lot here,
No, I
right?
mean,
So the question was, should we be pressing to have these meetings sooner than later? Should we thinking maybe we should wait till after Labor Day because summer's a bad time to do much of this stuff,
Yeah.
but. I mean, I'm not feeling like there's a big rush unless there needs to be a big rush. In other words, if we have a certain amount of time before we're gonna have to commit to doing it, and we have to get our ducks in a row in order to be able to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Catherine.
My only concern about any of this is that because we're talking, there's there's 6 of us, maybe 7, 8 of us around, and a few out there. They're the only ones that are talking about this and hearing about it, and the ones that, and I ran into some people walking a dog, and of course I had to stop and talk to the dog.
Of course.
And one of the things they said is, what's this business about
Yeah.
sewering?
Mhm.
And I think that as much as we keep trying to give people opportunities to do it, the people that aren't coming they're hearing and making assumptions that are, not necessarily helpful, because they're assumptions and they're without adequate information. Is it possible for us to form some kind of quote letter again that goes to it's because it's not, even if we're talking about the sewer district, which could in the future, even if we can't do this yet, it does set us up for other things, because another big issue is water. What are we gonna do if we don't have, we have more people moving into Danby and we have water issues? I mean, it all sets us up for the long-term health and welfare of people and animals in Danby, everybody relies on safe water. That means less sewage going into the streams. It means everything. And so if we can do something that is really uplifting to say, this is not, when nobody's trying to shove anything down anybody's throat, trying to look forward, as you've requested of the town since the inception, is that the town looks forward to the health and well-being, something like that.
Well, I mean, at minimum, we can, and I've been trying to, put things in the newsletter.
I know, but the newsletter, the thing is, we know that some people, they get the newsletter, it's pitched.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things that we've talked about. One of the things we talked about, putting a different color paper in for one, for an survey or whatever. And then if we were to do something that I actually think a separate mailing wouldn't be a bad idea.
Well, at some point, but I'm thinking we're not at that point.
Well, that's my problem.
Yeah.
People think we are. They hear it, we hear it.
Yeah.
They think that we are. They think that we're sitting behind closed doors and deciding this, and they're gonna have to do it, and they don't want to, and they don't even know whether they're in it or not, or,
Right.
I think one problem is the technical support, which is what we're waiting for. And if you're looking at quotes and can get them shortly, then we can at least wait until that comes, which is like 1 or 2 meetings, and not a long time. And then we have some
Yeah.
technicals backup.
I don't think the
as opposed to us
technical
talking.
is what people are worried about. I think that they're worried about
Yeah.
that we're sitting around in the background and just saying.
When people,
What
when
I'm
people
saying is
say
one
that to you, you
isn't
should,
gonna hurt.
you should point them to the newsletter. I mean, that's what we've got it for. And so, you know,
I just made a suggestion, that's all.
yeah, yeah.
I do think you're pointing out like a really important, like basic thing about how humans think. And just like, if you have gaps in what you know, you're not gonna fill those up with like your best, you're not gonna be like, I bet it's a bunch of good stuff. You're gonna fill it up with like, I bet that it's all gonna be really bad because I'm filling these gaps
Yeah.
in with like the worst case scenarios. And
Yeah.
then you
Well,
start building that into your
Exactly.
mind as time goes on.
Yeah, yeah.
we have signs on Comfort Road. One.
I was gonna say, like, people are getting everything they know about it from driving down Comfort Road, maybe.
That's right.
Who knows?
Just a suggestion.
Right, and yeah, there's always this piece, it seems like there's just communication, getting the message out is often just a real hang up with any kind of major project. Something that could be done, we've been thinking about these direct mailers to advertise at community meetings. We could do, I'd be happy to draft it if the town board wants to spring forward, is I could do a free mailer, to people like now and just say, just give a very sort of general update of here's where we are, here's where we're looking to, engage an engineer. We're gonna be having community meetings later this year. Please stay tuned. You will be notified. Just throwing that out there as another suggestion. I can certainly keep advertising in the newsletter. Maybe it's I don't know how the newsletter is folded when it gets to people because I don't live here yet, but maybe it's have you heard about the Hamlet Sewer Project? See supervisor report on page 3.
Right.
Because people might just pitch the newsletter. I don't know, I'm guessing some people just do that. But
Yeah, you need a headline to grab their
Front
attention.
page news.
No,
That's front page news.
Most people
I
I
think
know read it.
on
Yeah.
the folded, the part that they see when they take it out of the mailbox, they don't have to open it up, but
Right.
it would mean having to put something on the address side or
So those are just
Read about sewers, page
two
3.
two suggestions.
Yeah.
And, happy to.
that's cheaper
prepare a
to
letter,
do it that way
send it out
first.
right now, even before anything is planned. I don't know if that's too premature, but at least it's just acknowledging there's this big project and planning will be rolling along and building momentum with lots of chances for community input, but this is just a way
Yeah.
to let you know.
I mean, I think also mentioning, because I've had a couple people ask me about it and, as soon as I say, it's just being
Right,
talked
time,
about, it's talked about along the highway, along, in the hamlet, not all down side streets, and because these are people that live, not
know.
close to the hamlet.
Yeah,
And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. But then am I gonna have to pay for it?
yeah,
So,
That's
I
the
mean, those are the
second
two
question.
things
yeah.
that I've been hearing,
Me
so. And I think putting it in a newsletter and on the website, I think, people are either gonna read stuff or they aren't.
You can't
You
make
can't
them read
make
it.
people read things, I
Right.
mean,
You.
Did I say something?
no.
I mean, this is one of the things I'm running on is support
Hmm.
of the public sewer. And I not obviously, but talked to a lot of people about it and plan on talking about it.
Yes.
The way that I understand the functionality of it as I am going through this process, so maybe that will help a percentage point, even though it will probably also, annoy people
Mhm.
too. But yeah.
It's apt to be part of the discussion when people evaluate the candidates. As part of the, leading up to the primary.
I mean, it's one of the questions for the interviews for the other whatever, that's paper. It was one of the, multiple questions was
Mhm.
your feelings
Mhm.
about this.
Yes, Catherine is correct that we just ran out of time.
What are
That's paper?
the little thing he puts on paper?
Forum thing or whatever, his
The
other.
Danby news.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Shall we give ourselves more time? it won't take that long to get through the rest of the agenda, we just ran out of the time we gave ourselves to do it. Now, I hate this rule, if we're up to me,
Well, it isn't. So
But
let's
it's
go
not-
on to the,
we
we have a
wouldn't, we
rule
wouldn't
right
be in
now.
this, we would just do it until we get it done.
Yeah, but we have a rule, so let's follow the rule and decide whether
Okay.
we want to do these.
How much time do you want?
3 minutes each.
That's all right.
We
6
can
more
probably
minutes.
do the others in 15.
Well, we can put it on to the next meeting. We just, there've been a lot of talking points
but-
tonight.
Right, but, some of these things are better not deferred, but it won't take that
Do you
long.
have the answer?
What's the problem?
We could have had one of them done already.
I know. Um, 8:45, I propose,
Time is it now?
25 of
27 hours.
11 more minutes.
All right,
Second. Is
second.
that what
Moved
you're
and
saying?
seconded to
I guess
8:45.
so. Let's just get moving.
Mariah,
Don't talk so much.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
Leslie,
Thank you. Connors,
Yes,
Hunter,
yes.
Stein,
Yeah,
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon.
yep,
Thank you.
if we talked enough about sort,
Mhm.
for now.
Yeah.
thought we might have put Mariah to sleep.
right. The next one would go quickly. The meeting room use policy, you recall Pat was gonna, check around. Checking around, she found that, she mostly got referred to the supervisors. She said, well, since you talked to him, why don't you do it? So I agreed to do that, but then I mentioned that to Mariah and she said, well, I'll call around too, to the clerks. Which between us, we'll come up with more
Oh,
information.
okay, next meeting?
Yeah,
Good.
I did talk with the Association of Towns, and I talked about 4 different towns in Danby, or in
Tompkins
Tompkins
County,
County.
yeah.
And it seems that more don't have a policy
At all.
than have one at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Wonder what they do.
They do have some informal stuff that somebody on staff will take into account when things are done, and
Okey doke.
apparent.
So you're gonna do it? No,
Apparently it
Mariah's
works.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
Mariah's gonna throw something
Right,
together.
Well,
George.
I passed 3 or 4 room use policies along to Pat. And I was it was a recommendation from another town clerk that we discuss this with our insurance policy.
And the Association of Towns said the same thing.
And of course, there was the insurance, it was actually the insurance who
Said to have a
said that we
policy.
ought to have a policy.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe they have a recommendation for a policy.
I don't think they did.
No,
They were just concerned that we had the policy that we have. which
Okay,
we
so
do.
what are we doing now?
Let's ask ChatGPT.
We're waiting for more data.
We're
that's
looking
it.
for more information still.
More samples.
So I'm gonna bring it up with the supervisors. But not for till next month, because we just met last week, but, and Mariah's gonna see what she can find out
From clerks.
also from town clerks. About existing policies where they exist, which evidently is in every place.
We'll get
Wow.
samples of from all the other towns.
Yeah,
that
I'm
we
sure
have.
that's how the one that we have was written. So, okay, next.
No,
Speed, well, I
yeah.
remember when it was written.
Okay, speed limit requests. Can you give us an update on where we are?
All right. Well, we're still waiting. We got an okay for the 4 changes to the
Right,
West King, East King, East Miller, West Miller, and West Jersey Hill.
right.
So we're waiting for the next letter from them telling us we can put up the signs. And we have to, I'll try and get information about why, the moving that
Why
that
that didn't
speed
happen.
limit sign to the other side of Miller Road was included in their letter saying, we got your request. But it wasn't in the letter saying, here's your first yeah, we approved this.
Yeah,
So we need to figure out what happened with that, because that actually, you know,
'Cause they did-
safe streets for all, that's one of the biggest
yeah.
things we
They
could be
didn't say they
doing.
disapproved it, they just didn't. tell us that they
It wasn't
approved
included in the approval
Yeah.
letter. Anyway, so the other thing is digging out the possible second batch after that batch
Mhm.
was to do something about West Danby. And we need to get information not only from people who live there, but from Highway. They're saying that it's extremely dangerous for them to snowplow
Right.
there, mainly because of the speed limit, and the way the roads come into 3496. So I'll meet with Highway and try and get their thoughts about what, stretches need to be considered. I mean, it needs to include the fire department, that lane, because that's like an accident waiting to happen.
Yep, it is.
Yes.
So there's that, it was that, the possible second batch was West Danby and South Danby Road. We had at one time asked for a lowering of the speed limit from Traver Road to 96B. We need to think about, is that enough? Should it be, Fisher Settlement to 96B? Should it be farther out to 96B? There was also a suggestion that a dangerous curve ahead should be put on that road too, with that, when that was brought up. So,
On South Danby.
yeah, it, right after Traver Road
Mhm.
coming in. So I'd like to get Highway's opinion about a lot of these things.
Excuse
But-
me, but
But
you
Misha, would you
ignored my,
stop? No, Rhonda, stop. The other, things that have been mentioned were to try and get a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit in residential sections on Michigan Hollow, Bald Hill, Hornbrook, and Gunderman. That was also something considered, and we can, sort of put these all down and see what people think and what Highway thinks. That was what we were talking about back in 2024.
Mhm.
So
what
and-
what can we do as a next step?
And with, as far as the length of South Danby Road, we can ask them to, they'll come up with whatever they want, but we can ask them to, look at
DOT.
96B to, I don't know, Howland Road or something, and see what their decision is.
Yeah,
but the petition goes to the county
Oh.
line.
yeah, of
So-
course.
The
Um,
petition goes to the county line.
I heard you, Rhonda.
Yes, I'll say it again if you want.
No, thank you. So right now, that's where it is. I'll get together with Highway.
So the next step is you're gonna meet with Highway. see
Yeah.
if they- what they regard as priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I want to do that,
And then we can duke it out.
yeah. There's a couple more, go ahead. They have this resolution authorizing the highway superintendent to sign a
Oh.
work permit with DOT. I move we do that.
I'll second.
Ready to vote?
Yep.
Yep, Mariah,
There are two resolutions. Which resolution are?
they both resolutions, or
Laura said it's only one and one is
It's
underneath
the
the
little
other.
one.
one's a statement, the other one's a resolution.
Yeah, she's got resolution number on it, but we're doing the small, right?
What number?
We could probably take the words resolution off of that undertaking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right,
Just have
right.
that resolution.
there are done resolutions at the end where we authorize Keith to sign it.
It points to the undertaking, so, yeah, we could
Right.
probably take the words resolution off one of them, and it makes it less confusing.
Right.
So, I'm sorry, so could you just tell me what is the name of this resolution? The attachment to highway work permit
Yes.
undertaking?
Yes.
It's
That
it's a
one?
resolution authorizing.
Attachment to highway work permit undertaking, giving Keith Shipman permission to enter into the yearly work permit with the state of New York. I was wondering, that looked funny. Permission.
Mhm. And, do we have we already had a second?
Second,
Yes, I think Pat seconded it.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
Connors,
Yep.
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes,
Woodworth,
yes,
Gagnon.
Yes,
Thank you.
and then we have, an opportunity to apply for CDBG funds for the, accessibility to the town
Oh,
hall.
okay.
It's one of the things that we're actually in the program, specifically accessibility. And, Greg said, shall I go for it? And so I'm asking for the board's permission to have Greg spend the time to apply.
I move we apply for that.
Second.
For discussion, you have 2 minutes left.
Well, we got 2 minutes worth of discussion. Right?
I was just gonna say, do you want to know more about like the process for that?
is it gonna take you a long time to apply?
I probably wouldn't be the one applying. But I mean, we might try to find an engineering company and wrap that up into, or not, wrap that up into the.
2 pieces, right?
Yeah, wrap that up into 2 pieces, but essentially just for the purpose of this, that yes, we would be applying. It would be kind of in 2 steps though, so it might sound frustrating, but the town would have to go through a needs assessment first. And a preliminary engineering report,
Yeah.
of course. And then the next year, but the thing is, next year could be,
May not be there.
might not be here, but that is the first step. The requisite is to have a needs assessment and a preliminary engineering. And then from there, you can apply for final design and construction funding, also through CDBG. So it's unfortunate, we're not quite to that, we're not ready for a full,
Implementing.
yeah. But it's still a work.
And it only cost you 4 times as much as if you just went ahead and did it.
Do you think it's worthwhile?
It's up to $1 million. There's no match required. Pretty much if you have architectural barriers like ADA compliance issues,
Yeah.
you are eligible.
And it's, we're
We do.
an exact match for what the money is intended for.
Okay.
The reason why you have to engage a firm is that with any grant application, you have to have numbers in there. How much is this going to cost? So anyway, I'm just, I might have to engage somebody, whether I could just do that and pull numbers and try to do it myself and average them out, but it might be better to see if I can put out a request for proposal for grant application and grant administration. And it seems like that's okay with CDBG. And basically seeing if a firm would write the application kind of for free.
Mhm.
I'm gonna see, I'm gonna call around. Maybe Toma would be willing, they're
Yeah.
very familiar with CDBG applications, maybe they'd be willing to do this, and just do the application part, and then we could worry about the implementation later, right? But we can, at least the authorization I'm hearing is to at least explore this, and the directive is to
Yeah.
apply, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it puts us on the path too.
Especially when we had that incident.
Yeah, we have the issue with the curbing and even.
Yeah.
Okay, we should vote.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Connors,
Yes.
Hunter,
Yes.
Stein,
yes.
Woodworth,
Yes,
Gagnon.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, we're at time. Thank you. I apologize again for being late. My internal clock is wrong.
Staying sunny out till
Wait a minute.
9 o'clock almost.
Yeah, no, it's not going home. Covered stuff.
Yeah.
You got here pretty fast.
What's that?
You got here pretty fast.
Like, what?
Yeah.
it's not night.
Somebody has something to do.
Well, our cat likes it.
Throw something.
Pat and Catherine, we'll see you on Thursday.